Hello, Even. Can you hear me? I currently cannot see you, Chris. Right, for the time being, I will just talk into the ether. Hello, guys. Hope you're doing fine. Music is working. That's marvelous. Um, we can see Chris playing around. Whilst he's doing that, I might as well just talk about Nikita Michelson's. Michelson's looks like a pretty decent player. I like his ability to carry the ball. Dribbling suggests that he might have been used occasionally at left back, perhaps. Um, wins ball like wins possession 15.32 times per game is excellent. My only concern there would be that his tackling isn't great. Wins only 69% of his tackles, possibly indicative of him attempting a lot of tackles. That he's maybe going in when he's not necessarily assessed the situation properly, but he wins his headers for centre back, and that is the main thing that kind of matters for a centre back, I would say. If you have good tacklers around him, we have players like Bro that we looked at earlier. He had 83% header win rate, which is kind of encouraging. We have, if he's got a good tackling centre back partner alongside him, Mickelson's shortcomings there wouldn't necessarily be too much of an issue. So it looks like a pretty decent player, pretty decent player. Yeah, I'm going to just message to see. Let me just see this. Can you? And of course, it is worth saying. So, for those that haven't caught along with the Union de Tomar series over on YouTube, firstly, go check it out. I don't know if Pixel is still in the chat there, but if you are, and there's like a command for the link to YouTube, that'd be grand. Fantastic series. He's in just finished season 9, as we mentioned at the top of the stream, and they've just finished second. So it's kind of this is a good team. This is a very good team that are playing very well. So when I will come along and I'll say, yeah, that's rubbish. This is all relative. These players are all very good, and this side is very good. They finished joint third top scorers in the league, joint second best defence, and they're about 10, 15 points or so, I think, below us. There is quite a gap to close. They got really badly spanked. Karim Kanate was the thorn in their side last season. So last season, Karim Kanate was on loan at Porto from Galatasaray. He scored 11 goals in total last season. Not something particularly special. 7 of those goals came in 3 games against União de Tomar. An absolute bastard, just saving himself for those games. the words
Okay.
blink, biscuit, and treat.
Yep. All right. So, yeah, I see my mic levels raising up, and I saw yours as well. Like, are you guys getting echo from me speaking at all in this case, or can you hear everything all right there? Because if we've got the audio, that's at least one part of the battle done there as a whole. Okay, perfect. The audio portion, at the very least, we are good to go on that. Awesome. Great. Fantastic. And of course, let me just put the wherever the webcam is now, that's the battle in and of itself that I now need to fight. Oh, I just have to activate it again here over on the Discord settings. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's just the camera stuff that we need to figure out here at this juncture, if anything. So, sorry again, guys. It's these issues were more unexpected than anything, unfortunately. So we're just trying to do the best that we can with them here. I mean, worst comes to worst, it's not like you exactly need to like see us in full. I would think, so long as you can hear us, I think that's the ideal call here. Most importantly, so
I would go
let's
so
try
far to
to.
say it's an advantage if they can't see me.
Oh, come on now. The hair and the beer combo are glorious enough to where like we can't just casually ignore that by any stretch of the imagination. Let's do this. Okay. So it's just weird now because I have the webcam activated as a source again, but then of course it's not showing me like at all, unfortunately. Yeah, of course. Now it's just showing the invisible. See, people are threatening to leave now. This isn't a good sign. Okay, resolution. I mean, well, this is fine. It means we can probably go to the bigger screen in that situation there while I figure this all out. Hooray! But yeah, in the meantime, while I do this camera stuff on the background here and we figured that portion out, Musterman, where were we initially? We were starting to talk about Mitchell-sons, but then things got cut off there. So, in general, kind of what do you make of him as a player and whatnot from what you can see? Okay. Give me 1 sec here, Muskman. For some reason, it's not picking up at all, even though it should be. It's very bizarre all of a sudden. Yeah. Hold on here. Yeah, what is going on with the settings? Like, did everything just decide to crap out after the initial?
That makes him in the 85th percentile for headers won as a volume. So that's the more numbers. 6.36 headers is in the 85th percentile. 1.58 tackles is in the 75th percentile. So you can extrapolate from that a central defender probably makes 4 times as many headers as he does tackles. And so someone who wins a high proportion of headers is arguably more important than a defender that wins a high proportion of tackles. Of course, you would like them to be good at both. So yeah, there are some concerns there with Mitchell-sons, but he's a really good player. He's a really good player.
Yeah, and in general, again, it's one of those guys you getting them in early enough because they were young and showed some potential, and then a potential pretty good sale that you're making, 40 times the amount that you paid for him in this case, which is him as a free transfer and whatnot. And then as a breakdown in general, he only played one game as a left back starting wise. Otherwise, he was just in the center as a whole, and you can kind of tell with these sorts of statistics here. Apologies for the lack of webcams at this point. It's just for some reason we can't get those figured out here. I may have to just grab a scene accordingly and roll with it.
As he does. You've got Michelson's, who's just a little bit safer. That's a really good balance there. Now, Holifab does say that is Tayana not more of a centre-back than a ball-playing defender? Like, certainly from an attribute standpoint, he's got less than ideal first touch. He's got less than ideal passing. Apparently, he's got less than ideal heading as well. But he's doing absolutely fine in all those regards. So this is one of those weird things where the statistics show that actually, maybe he is a ball-playing defender. You're kind of fine with that. Mm-hmm. And he seems to be a better option in terms of the ball-playing aspects than Michelson's is, despite attribute-wise, it's looking like it should be the other way around. I'm enjoying the flashing up of the browser source every now and then as well.
Yeah, it's one of those where I'm just trying to do that on the background here. My apologies on that, trying to get that all added for us ideally. But hey, worst comes to worst, like if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It is what it is. But I will keep trying in the meantime. But that said, yeah, with Diana, again, him being fairly new to the team, coming in at 1.2 million and already being valued at closer to 20 million, not bad value at all things considered there. So pretty happy with that on that side of the spectrum.
So I see that Hungdaman says that we've got 3 good centre backs here. I'll be honest. I know I'm being very, very dismissive. As I said, I think again, whilst you were having issues, it's like we've got to remember this is a very good team. They finished second, so even when I turn around and say this is rubbish and things like that, we're talking relatively here. We're still talking about good players. I'd be wary of Mania and his 64% win rate being considered, certainly in the short-term future, as a centre back. And same situation with Miller Stevu. Mm-hmm. I think his header win rate was below 60%. So you've got some promising young players as well, but I wouldn't consider them as players I'd want in my rotation if you're trying to challenge for a title. Like Miller Stevu and Mania might be good options in the fullback positions. They might be players that you look to loan out, personally.
Yeah, I think I just added us over here on the corner, so just a makeshift thing, but it will do for now, at the very least.
Yes, I just randomly looked over at the stream and saw my face.
Yes. Populate, yes. Mm-hmm. That's trying to get it to where we can do a grid. Perfect. Yep, there we go. That way both of our faces are rounded out here on the side. It's a makeshift solution, but if it works, it works. So yes, hello everybody. Good to see you all once again here as a whole. Much appreciated on the patience. But yeah, I mean, again, nothing to complain of here. This is just a means of looking at what we have and see what extra steps we need to take in order to try to get past Porto, finally. So that's the idea. With that said, there's one more center back that we can cover. He was more of a fringe option for us, really. 2 of them, but they really didn't do all that much, and they're kind of just there in case of depth emergency. So Brado Kiwa was the first one of the bunch. Didn't play a lot, just 15 games as a whole, 12 appearances, 16 in total as a center defender. Some things he did well, some not so much. Obviously, tackles, 1 and pressures attempted, kind of abysmal as a whole, but he was very good in terms of his possession, progressive passing, etc., etc. So for a guy that didn't show up all that much, he did at least have some good things he showed, but he's definitely just a depth option over anything else that we have at the moment.
So my initial instinct, one thing that I will constantly talk about percentage rates over the raw numbers with tackles and headers, because it can be reflective of, like, if you as a team have more of the ball, you have fewer opportunities to make defensive actions because you're defending less frequently. So generally speaking, I don't put too much stock into the number of tackles completed by a defender or the number of headers won by a defender. Bradel Keewer, I will make an exception for, because to only make 0.54 tackles per game is really quite inconceivably bad. But when he does attempt those tackles, he wins them. So he is at least effective in those situations. The question being, why doesn't he engage in those tackles? And that probably comes down to his aggression. He's got very low aggression as an attribute.
Yeah, extremely.
And so I don't think that's something you're likely to see improve significantly over time. So he's always going to be a player that potentially refuses to engage when you need him to. So he's like he's solid. He's solid. He's okay. As a backup option, perfectly fine. He's also on wage that is very, very comparable to Tayana. But the wage doesn't seem to be too restrictive in that regard. So my only question will be is, as we look through the squad, is he worth $3,000 per week?
Yeah, it's one of those questions in particular. And again, with him specifically, I believe when we did get him at the time, he was just a very cheap option at 74, 75K. A couple of seasons back, played a season with the B team for portions of it, and then he initially was getting a lot more time during the first seasons where we brought him in, where we still weren't as good of a team overall, but he's kind of just become a backup option, as Hung is suggesting to turn him into a target forward. And at 6'4" and with some very awkward experience at striker, I don't know, maybe it couldn't hurt in the situational deal where we need an extra goal, we need a couple of big bodies on the corner to maybe give him a opportunity on that front, but that's a bridge to be crossed later. And then last but not least, on the center defender's depth kind of as a whole, we'll get to Rosero once we talk about the DM, since that is usually his primary role. But on center backs, Fernando Somolinos, who is kind of our elder statesman of this bunch, who definitely had some good amount of regression over the course of this year compared to previous seasons, where he'd come in as a free transfer and kind of a talisman for the club, being the elder statesman, having captaincy and whatnot. But I feel this is the next season where if a team comes in with a cheap deal to get him out into like the lower leagues of Spain or whatnot, I'd probably be very willing to take it, because I do not believe he will be featuring very much this upcoming season with the level where we need our defenders to be.
So I'm going to throw this back to you. What do you think I'm going to say?
Highlight certain good aspects of him, but say sell the bugger at this point, or keep him just due to the wage.
I'm not even going to highlight anything good. He wins 50% of his headers. That's atrocious for a centre back. Throw him as far away from the club as you can. Just chuck him into the sea. I'm sorry, Fernando Somolinos. You're a real human being, and real human beings have feelings. But dear God, get into that sea, my man.
Yeah, just yeet him into the sea and just ship him back to Spain. Got it. That is fair enough. So, it took us a little while, but we covered our keepers and our defenders. Let's get into the defensive midfielders and really just midfielder scene as a whole here. couple specific players to highlight here that we will get into. Two specific ones in particular who were really three of them that were the primary roles in this. So we're going to start with kind of our youngster of the bunch, which is Cleider Rosero, 21 years old, jovial nature, Colombian, so shout out Pixelated Suits out there. It's one of your main men. He came from Millonarios after 3 years in their academy system for 1 million, and he's already worth about 20 times that. So I feel like we did some good work with him, bringing him to this point. 28 appearances in total, has the good old quarterback badge there as a whole, but as he's still young, some things that he's not doing so well, some things that he's doing very well. Those tackles won are pretty nice. I think it could be better, yes, but pretty nice as a whole for a guy that did see a consistent amount of starting fixtures this season around. So,
yeah, agree completely. I really like Rosero. Colombian supremacy is clearly here. So things to pick up with defensive midfielders or defensive midfielders and central midfielders, their tackle win rate tends to be a little bit lower than every other position on the pitch. So, attacking midfielders tend to be better in terms of tackle win rate. Which is generally the type of challenges they're going for. 76% is pretty damn solid. So he's not just winning a good volume, but he's winning them at a good rate as well. There's also, generally speaking, with midfielders, they either pressure, so they go and they chase after the opposition, or they sweep up loose balls. Rosero here sweeps up loose balls. He doesn't pressure, he wins possession instead. So in terms of the mold of player you've got here, you kind of know that you want someone else alongside him that's going to do the running around like a headless chicken bit. He's going to be the classy motherfucker that picks it all up. Sorry for the swearing. Picks it all up and then plays it forward. Progressive passes, 7.3 from 51, sensational. Really helps you move the ball up the pitch. Expected assists in the 80th percentile. He's creative from deep. Rosero is quality.
Yeah, I've been a big fan of him as a whole here, and would love to see him just take an even bigger step now that he's stepping into his 20s and past those sort of like awkward teenage years as a whole. But he's had pretty good season so far with us here, and we're just hoping ideally to see him grow and kind of like raise his value up even further. And at 7,500, he is somebody that is expiring this season, so he is somebody else that I did wanted to check in terms of his agent and see what they are looking to do for his demands. Raise wise, 11k, that's not as bad as I would expect for a player of his level. We can lower that a considerable amount, get it closer to like the 9-10 range as a whole. Right now at 7,500, so it's not that big of an increase to make out of him, so I do want to get that taken care of ideally as a regular starter, which he's already integrated himself as one on the team regardless. So 11k is sort of the average that he's looking for. I am going to try to see if I can get him at 9.5, if I can get him some extra bonuses and incentives, feed his agent accordingly, make them happy, maybe lower the appearance amount by just a little bit here while increasing some of the other bonuses. If he makes it into a team of the year, 50k is feasible with the amount of money we're making now coming into Europe and stuff. I do want to lower a couple things for his international wages. Like if he appears 5-10 games for Colombia, sure, we can raise him to 11 at that point. And then for a minimum fee release clause, I do want to get that closer to 50 instead, but we can give him some extra incentives to go with that. So obviously just do the relegation clause at 0. Yeah, we can try to remove the release clause in that situation. Let's do this assist bonus. If he gets 10 assists, we will feed him. Where did it go? We'll do 350k for 10 assists. And if he gets 15 assists, we'll throw in an extra 100. Sure.
Right.
Kind of lock a couple of these things in.
Do you give these very, very high clauses because you're confident they're not going to reach them? Or is it a case of you feel that's the amount you need to be able to sweeten them on the other elements of their deal?
Exactly. Mostly displaying the demands that I want, but I also am not opposed to the idea of if they hit their goals, paying them those extra amounts. I'm fine with that because it means the team is doing well, all things considered. So
The only thing I would consider in that respect, sorry, is tying it a little bit more closely to the base wage. So currently, if he gets 15 assists, he's going to double his wage for the season. Because 10k per week is 52 grand. 10k a week is £520,000 per year. So you're putting a lot of money into bonuses that can eat away surprisingly come the end of the season. Now, if you get them, if their wages come down low,
yeah. So let's try this because they are very demanding on the semi-negotiable portion of the release clause. So unfortunately, I do still want that, but I do want to lock that in at least at the highest value possible, and try to negotiate that later if we can help it. And it seems at the very least they'll go for that. So that's fine by me for the time being. We can always look into it next season as well if he has a stronger season to try and negotiate a better deal too. So I'm not particularly too picky with that. It's just with him expiring next year, I just don't want to run into a situation where we get blindsided and, you know, make less than what we could for him. So with that in mind, Milosevic was one that we talked about. In this case, we can talk next about our two elder statesmen at the DM position. So rotationally wise, Mabaya and Lukanic have been rotating around. So Isaac Mabaya, we'll go into him first, as he was a bit of a hero during the later portion of the season here. And just overall, for like a 27-year-old, just phenomenal value for him. We got him out of Millwall on a free this past season after he played there played in the English tiers for a couple of years. A Liverpool Academy graduate, but just kind of a beauty of a human being, if I'm going to be completely honest with you here for the most part. His possession lost and pressures attempted, bit of a concern, but everywhere else he's shown over the course of this season.
Yeah, and Mabaya is a really, really good player. Again, players tend to either apply pressure or win the ball. It tends to be one or the other, so no concern there. And again, his attacking output kind of explains his possession lost. He takes risks, therefore we get the rewards from it. Like Mabaya is sensational. Like he contributes in every single phase. Now, before I saw his pizza chart, my question would have been, could he actually be an option to play at right back with you switching to the attacking fullbacks, like having that versatility considering he can play there? You'd be like, look, he wins his tackles, he wins his headers, he wins possession, he can dribble, he can create. Like maybe there's the possibility that he isn't just a really good central midfielder for you, but he's your cover at right back. However, I'd be wary of that because his goal output is fantastic as well, and even the most attacking right back isn't going to have as many opportunities as they would from a central position.
Right. And to keep that in mind too, he was very diverse in terms of his positioning around with the different tactics we had. So he did see some time as a central midfielder in some tactics, and that's where he was scoring most of his goal outputs. Decent time at DM as well, 6 goal contributions there. And then he did have 4 appearances at right back when we needed it for depth purposes, where he did okay for the most part there. Like his average ratings were just, right there at the middle. But then again, this is a role where he's accomplished that compared to his natural position as a regular midfielder, and then just accomplished at the end. So he does have some versatility, which is very good on those aspects, but I do think just as a central midfielder does seem to be where he fits best. More often than not, when he was playing in the role itself as a midfielder, he was playing the support role in the Fury 4-2-3-1, or as a segundo volante in the Belfajeda role. So more on the attacking side than the defending side in this case. So with that said, good option. We want to keep him around. He's got good value. He is getting a little bit older, but still he's more than good enough for this level and for continental games as well too. And then Luka Lukanic, who did become kind of a favorite for the fans of the club over the course of the past couple of years since we did acquire him from Hellas Verona. Also another free that just eventually became a core part of the team as a whole there. His profile is not as, robust as Mabaya or Rosero, but he often would be someone that would take risks on the offensive side of the spectrum, and he has a penchant for taking long-range shots on his side and scoring quite a few of those as well too. You can kind of see on his playing style and whatnot. Definitely a bit of a defensive liability on his end of the spectrum, but as an offensive option for that segundo volante role stepping in every so often, he is pretty good. He is getting towards the high twilight of his career at this point, but he does have some pretty good qualities in terms of his leadership. His stats are still pretty balanced, so I do think we can at least get another good season out of him before it's time for him to head to the woodshed somewhere. So,
right now, I'm here to defend the old people, right? Like you signed last season a 33-year-old Joey Veerman. So straight off the bat, Luka Lukanic has at least 5 years left. I think you signed a 36-year-old Kostas Tsimikas, so absolutely fine in that regards. He's got plenty of time left. Obviously, as players get older, their wage demands get higher, so there is obviously that consideration in there. What I see with Luka Lukanic is he's the first central midfielder you've got who's above the 50th percentile for pressures attempted. He's winning 80% of his tackles. So actually, defensively, he is contributing. And he is creative. He is scoring goals as well. He's progressive. Honestly, so I really like Rosero. I really like Mabaya. Both of them are more active sweeping up the ball in defensive midfield. Lukanic is more active in applying pressure to the opposition. So Lukanic plus one of the other two actually feels like a better balance to that pivot. Right. So even though you said that maybe doesn't have the same output defensively, actually he complements what you've got, if that makes sense.
Okay. Fair enough. Hey, I'm looking at this stuff as I go too, so this is good to know.
The flip side of that is that both Rosero and Lukanic don't have much of an aerial presence. Mabaya does. So you've essentially we've talked about 3 central midfielders, and you've got a really, really good balance of profile there. You've got your sweeper guy who progresses the ball really well in Rosero. You've got your box bursting player from deep who also wins headers in Mabaya. And you've got your kind of crafty, guily kind of person who also runs around a little bit like a headless chicken in Lukanic. So you've got lots of variety there, which is good.
Yeah. No, perfectly understandable. All right, so that said here, into the defensive midfielders, let's see who else we can talk about. I guess in a way we can talk about him at this point because he kind of is our sort of Swiss Army knife up front. Let's talk about Marco Tavares, who is one of our academy graduates who came through all the way back in the 2024-25 season, had a little bit of time in the second league with us. He did have some loans over to Liga 3 teams initially before he came back in the 28-29 season and then just really took off as a starter. He had some injury troubles during the course of this year, so his stats did fall off considerably compared to previous years, but he is somebody who can play pretty much any role that you ask him up front, from DM all the way to striker. He does excel as a AMC, but he's seen some time at DM. He's seen a little bit of time at striker and as a regular midfielder as well through the course of last year as well. But let's gauge him at his best, most familiar role, which was as one of the attacking midfielders in his scenario there. In general, kind of a down year for him compared to years past, but I do still like some of the things that he brought to the table. And again, having that consistency where he could play as a DM and shine in certain qualities if he was playing one of those roles, or as a regular midfielder, or even as a striker. He did show some pretty good stuff as well whenever we had Cho Sang-yon out due to injuries and whatnot. But what do you make of him personally on your side of the spectrum?
Right, the starting point, it's all about headline numbers, right? And he has, I would reckon, somewhere about 4.6 moustache twirls per game. That is a sensational bit of facial hair, and for that reason and that reason alone, we should be building around him. That
Yes.
side apart, so I've obviously, for clarity to chat as well, as I've obviously had a look around the save, and I've asked you some questions ahead of time as well. So one element with Marco Tavares is he's homegrown, which is, I think, something key to zone in, and he's massively helpful in terms of your registration desires. So he's going to be a player
Both
that
for
is probably
the
going to
league as
feature
well.
quite heavily.
Yeah, both for the league side and then continental competitions now that we're getting into, like those homegrowns are essential for it, and Marco fits that bill to an absolute T. So
Yeah. So I mean, like the immediate things that stand out. He scores above his XG, and he scores at a pretty damn good rate, 0.41 goals per game. Got 12 goals this season. Fabulous. With that tactic that you're looking to move towards with the shadow strike as well, he seems a very, very natural fit for that role. He does that without losing the ball as well. So he's safe. He's making good decisions in the final third. Sure, it would be quite nice to see the pressing numbers be higher. It'd be nice to see the expected assists numbers be higher. Attacking midfielders in central positions tend to have dribbles on the lower side. So attacking midfielders covers wingers and AMCs. Out wide, you've got a lot more space to dribble. So it's perfectly normal to see attacking midfielders struggle to get above 50th percentile. So that's not that much of a concern. But he is a goal scorer more than he is anything else, would be my main takeaway.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and in terms of, again, just moving into that new 4-2-3-1 style in and of itself, he feels like he is just kind of a glove type fit for the shadow striker role. So I'm really excited to see how he'll do on that eventually there. Although I do think, even though there's no interest in him at the moment, the fact that his value is already getting closer to the 50 million portions, it feels like one good European campaign could push him slightly up further and really get him into the radar of a couple of these bigger teams. So it's something for me to be on the lookout for. But again, just homegrown guy, academy guy. Ideally, this is one of the building blocks for this team for, the next few years to come. But we tackle that as the seasons come and go. So now that we are on the attacking midfielder options that we have, a couple of guys that we can talk about here as a whole. We've already covered Tavares. Cho Sang-yon is primarily our striker on his side of the spectrum, so just keep that in mind here. We'll cover him somewhat last on this portion. So we're gonna talk about the Brazilian phenom in real life that in this FM was very much kind of hit or miss bag, depending on like how quick you got him and how he started developing. But Stevon has been doing pretty well for us after his first official season with the club. As you can see in the save, Palmeiras didn't really use him a whole lot. We had him on loan for a season or so, where he showed out pretty well, 8 goals, 13 assists, and then we brought him in for 2.4 million last season. 12 goals, 8 assists across all competitions, and he mostly was someone that featured kind of all over the place. He was a mixture between center, midfield, and then on the right-hand side as well, plus some guest appearances at striker and AML as well. So mainly just attacking midfielder as a whole. Definitely some things to like, some things to improve on, but what are you looking at yourself here as a whole?
Look, this is a difficult conversation to have, like with the Palmeiras fan. Yeah. I can't say too much bad. Now, like his output, he's doing really well in terms of creativity. He's in the 85th percentile for expected assists, which is fantastic. A really good option to be your creative spark. And I see that being useful in the Fury 4-2-3-1, where you have creative players out wide. His goal scoring return, 0.3 goals from 0.36 at non-penalty XG. He is underperforming in that regard. So his goal output would concern me for, say, a striker role or the shadow striker role. As a creative player, he's kind of okay. Good expected assists, maybe not as many dribbles as you'd like to see. So he looks to be a little bit hit and miss initially. And again, he's another attacking midfielder, like with Tavares, who doesn't contribute much in the pressing game. So both of them are registering very low for attacking midfielders in pressures attempted. And I think that's something might need to be mindful going ahead, because you can certainly carry one or two players in those attacking positions that aren't very good at pressing. If all your players aren't good at pressing, you start to then end up with problems. So yeah, Esteban to me looks okay.
Yeah, and that makes sense considering the fact that, again, we getting him this late at 24, 25, and just currently in a position where he probably didn't get the development he should have gotten at his original club before getting sold elsewhere. I think definitely was a bit of a hindrance for him overall, but I do want to at least see kind of how he does over this next year before deciding on a move. But again, I won't complain if somebody comes in with an offer for him closer to this current value. We'd still be making a good amount of money on him if we do decide to move on. So it's not out of the realm to change things up. But yeah, there's definitely some possibilities with him, as it's being mentioned in chat, whether it's moving him as an inside forward in a situation, or kind of shift the tactic around to like have him and Tavares as two center attacking mids. Just, there's things that we can look into there. So next up, we're going to talk about Nikola Jojic, the Serbian Joker, as we eventually found out, since they are from the same area there. He featured a good amount in the Abel Ferreira tactic, so he mostly played as a Raumdeuter on his side of the spectrum, so just keep that in mind. Most of his appearances were on that right wing, some center midfield appearances and whatnot. But besides that, in terms of his numbers, it's kind of hard to tell. Definitely a better dribbler than the last two guys that we did see there as a whole, and better pressures attempted as a whole. And he did give us a little bit of a mix between goals and assists during the times in which he did see some action there.
So my initial impression is that I think we need to stage an intervention. Stop buying left-footed attacking midfielders. You need some balance, man. You need just one right footer. Just one right footer.
Just one.
Joking aside, okay, we can see it says that his preferred role is as a playmaker, and Jojic is a player that likes to get on the ball. He's in the 80th percentile for passes completed. He wants to be active, which is a good sign. The lesser good sign is that when he's got the ball, he's not creating much. So 0.16 expected assists is below average. That's the 45th percentile. He's right on the 50 percentile mark for goals. So as a player that can maybe tie things together, maybe okay. As someone that's impacting in the final third, he has been underwhelming so far. Now, $13,250 per week for an attacking player probably isn't that high. But I do have questions ultimately as to whether you're getting the output from him for what you're paying.
Yeah, there is that to consider. And again, the biggest thing that comes to mind with him for this next season is that with the primary shift into that the Fury style 4-2-3-1, where there is an advanced playmaker role, which is his preference, to see whether he gets a little more shine playing in a natural role like that and produces in the manner that we would like him to in these statistics. But I mean, if he doesn't, there is ways of obviously getting a certain amount of value for him, especially since, again, that's another free that we got from the English leagues that he was floundering through as a whole. So we'd still be able to make at least very good value on him if we had to go the route of selling. So
the other aspect as well is like he's 3 times MVP. The Joker is a notoriously amazing big man. So to win only 18% of his headers, that's just not on. Yay! Basketball crossover joke. Sorry.
Something is a little bit wrong in that situation if he's not just getting his head onto the ball there. I agree. I agree entirely. Good time. So, we kind of covered the wingers options here that we had. For kind of our left winger option, right now we are in the bit of a crisis. This is a position that we will need to fill for sure because we had a loanee into it from AC Milan actually last season in Matteo Pucci. So I guess we can talk about him very, very briefly here. We brought him into the fold during the January transfer window to fulfill the position needs there, and he did pretty well with the short amount of time he had, but we need to find a permanent solution, and he's too expensive to be that solution on our team, so we can't make that loan into a permanent deal for him, unfortunately. So that the attacking midfielder on the left-hand side, that is something in which we need to fill in completely. So with that said, in regards to Pucci there, in the left-hand side, Junior Treyes had a little bit of time during the course of this year, especially in the Europa League games, filling in another Colombian that we found deep in the depths. His contract expired in 2030, and we picked him up on a free last season in Season 8, and then he had a little bit of time playing. He's shown considerably this year once he had a little bit more of a starter role on his side there. So in terms of his goal scoring, he did pretty well. A lot of the damage that he did was during his Europa League run. 11 goals during that whole thing. In Liga Portugal, not so much, 4 goals, 8 assists, 12 goal contributions, which wasn't bad by any stretch, but the Europa League was really where he was popping off, if you will, for that. So
another good Colombian player. Pixel will be happy, I'm sure. In the league, 4 goals, 8 assists is pretty damn good. That's almost a 1 in 2 goal contribution from the number of games played. Like 23, I think it was, or maybe it's 25. So he's been solid in the league, sensational in the Europa League. He's as a goal scorer, he's really good. He's outperforming his XG by about what is it? It's probably around 21%, 22%, in fact. Yeah, so he's outperforming his XG by a considerable amount, which is great. He's also just about hits the 50th percentile for pressures attempted, so he helps you with some of your out of possession stuff, which is great. Like for a winger to be almost at the 50th percent for possession one as well, you know, he adds a bit of balance that you're missing. But yeah, I can see that this might be an area you want to improve on. I think that I know that he's not particularly comfortable on the right hand side at the moment, but if you've got players like Lukanic, who's probably more comfortable central, Esteval, and you've got Junior Trellis. That's three left-footed players who all look like they can contribute in some respect. Esteval is more. Was Esteval more creative than goal scorer, wasn't he? I think. I've got the game open here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Esteval was better option from a creative standpoint. Trellis from a goal scoring standpoint. So you've got different options there, but I think you definitely could benefit from trying to see if you can find a proper star potentially down the line.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Definitely a feasible option there. So, and again, I like that he does give us, as you mentioned, that depth if needed be. And, coming off the bench, he's provided a spark. But, again, it's a position where we definitely need to strengthen for sure over the course of this off-season year. And as I mentioned, Bro has filled in a couple of times at this left wing position just because we were lacking the depth from time to time. And the other loanees, the guys that are underneath here, they haven't really played much. They have been mostly B team players featuring, and there's not a whole lot of potential. Augusto Tavares, to a certain extent, could do something with time, but I just haven't been that confident in terms of what he has done while on excursion, if you will. Just for 35 games, he just did not perform all that well on loan with Mafia. So, yeah, definitely a position we need to strengthen, in my opinion. But
there's a player missing.
Mm-hmm.
Like
which one are we?
This squad planner, the squad planner for the left wing doesn't seem to include Rodrigo Matos. Rodrigo Matos, who I see you've put up for release, in fact.
Yeah, let me take a look, because that is a little bit odd, because Matos did feature considerably as well on his side of the spectrum. Where did he go? Let me try to add him on here myself. Give me 1 second. Yeah, because he is a guy that's played in the wings considerably as well too. Thank you for pointing that out too, because he's definitely featured a good amount of time here on his end as well. So yeah, let's talk about Rodrigo Matos. It's probably because he's expiring next month. That's the reason why. So Matos this past season, he's been kind of a long-term player for us. He did come in 2006, 2027 for 275K. Was a heavy starter for us in the earlier years, and then transitioned more into being in the bench from his side of the spectrum. But I mean, for his appearances that he did make, which were mostly on the left-hand side, some on the right-hand side, so he was just mostly like a bench guy, kind of fluctuating in. But he did have pretty good output, all things considered, for what he has been doing during that time here. Is just he has seen a couple of downgrades there, and thankfully he hasn't been injured too much, so he has helped in terms of depth. But as you can see, not too many appearances as a starter, mostly just as a bench player. But somebody to consider here over this next month on a re-signing if we can keep him on the cheap, as well as a depth backup option.
So yeah, the reason I'm mentioning him is because I noticed he came up on the set for release. I was like, well, let's just go through and check through. And I mean this respectfully. You're a madman. You're a madman. This Rodrigo Matos has your highest expected assists from your wingers at 0.26. He has your second highest goals scored at 0.46, and he is almost 50% above his XG. And he's willing to be a squad player. Like, this is the kind of player who I think you can keep and have around, and he offers you a lot of flexibility. Like, the only thing he's bad at is possession lost. But again, as we've spoken about, that's all relative to the creativity, to the goal scoring. He's getting involved, he's progressing the ball, he's winning possession, he's winning his tackles, he's pressuring, he's winning headers, he's scoring, he's creating. Like, he doesn't need to be a starter. But this is an experienced player with a really good personality as well. And he's right-footed.
Let's see here. Oh, yeah, I see it now. It's just like, oh, yeah, no left-wing footers, that particular joke. So let's see what they say in terms of his agency and whatnot. So they went 4.3 to 5.25. We can lower it closer to 3 to 4 in that case. Yeah, sure. It's, as you mentioned, more. He wants to be an important player, though, which is not ideal at this point. At most, squad player is all that I'd be able to give him in this juncture. Nope, still insisting on it. He might be somebody that we have to talk to a little bit later, maybe after like the contract expires, if he decides to go or if he decides to stay long term. But let's try this instead. Because by then maybe we move on. Oh, okay. So within 3 years, the progression and whatnot, that's fine for the time being. If I can renegotiate with him later, I can. Let's see if we can get him down to 3.4.
So from what I remember, I did some checking ahead, as I said. So I got him on as a squad player on £3,000 per week. Now, what the conversion rate is, I have no idea off the top of my head.
Okay, gotcha. So probably closer to like 3.4, 3.5. Just to be safe, I'll do the agent bonuses up a little bit higher. I get it's the agent. It's fine if we pay him off to get a solid. Nope, not quite. I'll come back to him in the next couple of weeks and see. We will take a look at him. So okay, we'll at least have him in the squad planner for the time being, just to keep him in mind for the eventual Worlds. So with that said, we can move on to the striker position at this point, where we had a couple balance between a couple of guys coming in and out. The two primary strikers really, outside of Stevo and Tavares filling in when needed, plus some. Yep. So 3 in fact. So the depth has been initially Cho Son-yeon. He's been our primary striker from the get-go here. We got him out of Incheon United for 325,000. He's basically become a star overnight. He carried us through the Conference League back in Season 8. Had a pretty good season in Season 9 as well, even though he did fight some nagging injuries throughout the course of the year, between a growing strain, tight hamstring, twisted knee, which didn't take him out for too long, but he did have a couple of rough injuries earlier on in August of last season, where it kept him out of action for a good amount of games early on, where he could have probably padded those stats a little bit further on the league side. But again, 24 goals, 8 assists, not too bad for 29 appearances in total there, primarily as a striker. So, and he is right-footed too, so there is that.
He looks good. I mean, that's a sensational goal return from the chances that he's getting as well, which is incredible. He's creative. 0.29 expected assist is fantastic. As you mentioned, he's been picking some up from set pieces, which is quite handy there. Yeah, he seems to work really well. He's not particularly good in the air. Which isn't a problem in itself. However, I do look at his attributes and I see that he's got good jumping reach, he's got good heading. He's got good bravery. So how he's only winning 17% of his headers is beyond me. I genuinely can't understand that one. Now he's a really good player. He's young. He's probably, I'm imagining, at the top end of what you would pay in terms of wages at this club. So your overall wage bill is around $400,000 a week. I think I checked.
I believe it was something along those lines. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm guessing,
530,000. So yeah, he covers a good percentage of that. Yes.
So I'm guessing the top end of your ability there is going to be around £50,000 per week for your best players.
Yeah, that seems to be the correct threshold for that at this particular moment. Yes.
So in terms of what I see a player who's really good. You can build around. I also see a player that's wanted by the Premier League in Germany, and that you probably don't have much of an opportunity. You don't have much wiggle room in wages to keep him at the club. So yes, a player you can build around, but also a player whose minimum fee release clause might be activated this summer and you need to replace.
Yeah, 100%. And again, we did renegotiate the contract fairly recently in January to kind of increase our bargaining power to where beforehand I think his previous contract was at a minimum release fee of closer to like 24,000, and now we've kind of increased our bargaining power to where 50 is the minimum that we're going to take. So we, at the very least, if it comes to the point of selling him and one of these big European clubs meet that release clause, we are making pretty much 50 times over what we initially paid for him, which is great business overall, but obviously a huge hole to replace if he does end up going in terms of his goal contributions and production up front. So there is that. But yeah, he's somebody who I've really enjoyed having in the club itself. So ideally, I'd love to keep him on board, but I also am not delusional enough to think that we can keep him in comparison to some of these bigger clubs, especially since we're still lingering in the Conference League and Europa League levels of play, while some of these teams coming for him are Champions League levels of play, or they have Premier League money. So things to consider.
Absolutely. Yeah, like I said, a player you want to keep around. Naturally, if his minimum value is already at his release clause and you've got teams sniffing, it's now just a hope. It's just like fingers crossed that all those teams want someone else more than him. And they're all currently showing as unwilling to make an offer while the transfer window is closed. So that doesn't give enough clue as to whether they have other targets first.
Or whether it's like there's active interest and then there's the rumored interest, obviously. So it's things we'll probably find out a little bit more come June once the transfer window itself opens up entirely there. So with that said, I think we just got 2 more players to cover, and then we can start advancing the days and actually playing this save too, outside of just going over the profile and the players. So Judson Sapel, he's been an interesting figure in the club in that initially he didn't want to renew, and then he eventually wanted to renew as a whole. He's had his moments with the club. He scored a game winner in a cup for us, so we do have a bit of fondness for him for it. As you can kind of see, in terms of performances, he mostly performed as a striker coming in as a backup, but he's had some appearances coming from the right wing as well, since he is pretty accomplished in those roles. His goal outputs weren't much throughout the course of the season there, and in terms of pressures applied, not a whole lot. But he did provide, your progressive passes, your dribbles, and expected assists with the time that he did have on the ball, playing as a whole there. As I said, not a whole lot that he performed in, but in the league stages, he did have 10 goal contributions. So he did help us with at least getting into second place in certain aspects of the course of the season. So
So, at risk of being very glib, you remember Fernando Somalinos?
Yes, it's the bin again for him, isn't it?
Yeah, like maybe him and Soonsup Bell could hold hands as they descend into the sea. Uh, right. No, so okay, due to Soonsup Bell, what I see with him is you don't want to rely on him as your goal scorer. Like even coming off the bench
No.
or in relief, he's just not scoring goals for you. He's not scored goals for you at a particularly impressive rate throughout his career. So I think his best return was, well, he had 18 goals in a season, to be fair. But otherwise, it's been
Yeah,
on the low side. His creativity is great. Like 0.26 expected assists, fantastic. He's carrying the ball well. Maybe there's something you can work with there. But I don't see where he fits in. If we're talking about the Fury 4-2-3-1 primarily,
mm,
I don't see where he would fit into those roles. He's not a shadow striker. He's not an advanced forward. I don't know if he's his creativity doesn't seem to be. It looks like he's a kind of player who gets down the channels, crosses low. Um, you have an inverted winger that cuts inside from the left, an advanced playmaker that cuts inside from the right. I don't know if he fits in anywhere.
yeah, I see what you mean. Because in terms of his roles on the sides, even like again, he was good with the Abel Ferreira tactic as a Rom Duter. He fit that particular role better than certain other aspects, but beyond that, it's definitely a player that I feel like we could move on from and ideally make a good amount of money from, especially since it'd be a pretty big return given when we got him, how we got him. We squeezed a couple of good years out of him. We did send him on loan for one season when he wanted to initially be sold before deciding, hey, never mind, I want to actually stay. But it might be the right time to sell him, see what we can get for him in the open market. So send him out to sea and hope he doesn't drown, I guess is the best policy for that. So,
Look, if he drowns, as
now
long
that
as
we
he's
got
off your
that one,
books, it's fine.
yeah, pretty much. And then last but not least, he only had a couple of appearances last season after coming back from loan over in Cameroon after we initially got him for 275k. But he feels very promising as a young depth option at striker, Mark Olivier Mabuka. So only 5 appearances in total as a substitute on all of them. But for a small sample size, I did like what I saw of him in either that advanced forward position or coming from the right hand side here is one of the options that we have as possibly advanced playmaker, inside forward, that type of thing, you know. So
Yeah. So not enough, too small a sample size to really make a judgment on his statistical performance. Um, yeah, can't really draw anything from that. But like, yeah, he's on a very amenable wage. His value's risen already quite significantly since being bought. He scored goals, granted in Cameroon, but he did score some goals. He did create some chances. Um, there is nothing to concern me, but there's just not enough information to go on there.
yeah, and
Yeah,
again, this next season I
exactly as
think will
Holly
be
Fab
kind of
says.
his testing ground.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
can't
can't
really
really
judge
judge
this
this
guy,
guy. Yep, I
unfortunately.
see it on the chat. Yeah, this next season will be one in which he's most likely going to be sticking with the club as a bench option coming in. So we will see a little bit more of him and make a better judgment at that junction. But I think that covers pretty much the entire squad depth. So with that in mind, because we're a little bit of an hour past, I'm not sure. Like I did set the I think before we got into the stream, I did set the ad revenues to where it would be like once every, I think, 30 minutes and whatnot. I'm not 100% sure how many of those ads have ran, how many have not, unfortunately, because I don't get the warnings from that from OBS's side of the spectrum. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's take about like 5-ish or so minutes here. Let's say 10 minutes. Water break, bathroom, do what we got to do. on that front. And once they come back, we'll start advancing into June and seeing what the future holds for us in terms of the save and whatnot. Twitch Turbo, big one there as a whole to skip the ads, always a good thing. But in general, I think between Musterman and I, we could always just use it for a quick bathroom break, water refills, and do all that. So give us about 10 minutes. We'll be back with you. All right, and we are back. Thank you so much, everybody, for your patience. Much appreciated. So, and the holy, since you were talking about it as well, too, I can kind of show you sort of the outlook of the team at the moment. The picture was from, I think it was like St. Louis City's stadium concept design. I'm like, this looks close enough to what a reconstructed stadium for Tomar I would hope would look like. So cool. Let's just use that instead. In terms of our trophies, you can kind of see here the big ones from Season 8, which were the UEFA Europa Conference League, the Taça de Portugal, the Portuguese Cup, the Super Cup last season, then the Allianz Cup 2 years prior, and then us winning the third and fourth tiers before that on our climb upwards. So our kits here, we don't have a third kit. Don't worry about it. That's non-issue. And then the profile view, general, what was I trying to look for here? Sorry, there we go. This is the view I wanted. So overview of the club, performance, match performance, no transfer activity. Not this one. I tried to see just sort of like the overall history of the club just to show the climb of like what we did. Is that usually the overall screen here, or am I thinking of somewhere else entirely? Must have been on your skin for this one.
So history should
wait,
be
hold on. I've got it.
the
History overview.
club
There we
overview
go.
history.
Perfect. Perfect. So, when I took over the club where we started, 23-24, we were in the fourth tier, and we did win the title to get into the third division. We got second place in Liga 3 initially, and then went into the championship group and won that to get promoted over to the second division. Third place in the second division to get the promotion into first division. Then 10th place, fourth, third, and then second this past year, and then second again this next season, which is going to be reflected once we do move calendar years officially there. So we have been pretty much establishing ourselves into the top four of the season within the second season after getting into Liga Portugal. We just need that one extra final little push there to really make things happen on our end of the spectrum there. So finally advancing days, everybody. So yeah, the scouts have been coming through with certain suggestions here and there. Yeah, I'm not sure why Apple Music has been crapping out on me and like not getting me like songs and like being able to play on the background. I'm trying to figure that out as we go here. So again, of course, it's like one thing goes right on stream and then three others immediately go wrong almost entirely. So that's just the nature of the beast sometimes. In the meantime, we will keep things moving here. Veerman is going to be retiring, so he's kind of a non-factor, and I think Tsimkas is pretty much the same situation with him. In the meantime, all right, there we go. We'll get the music back up and popping. And that's the hope hole. That is the hope. Okay, this was an offer that I made way earlier in the season just because he looked promising as a wonder kid type. Mario Mancuso, but he is going to cost too much. So we're just going to cancel it for the time being. It's somebody we can revisit next season once we get to it. These are just recommendations. We'll leave those as they are. The recruiting stuff, let me just take a look and see what these... So this is just sort of what we pieced together. Expiring contracts. We've already renewed on Rosero. Somolinos, we are yeeting him into the sun, so I'm actually going to just make sure that we do have him set to be yeeted into the sun if somebody decides to get him. Yeah, no worries, Pick. So we understand completely. And then player status, Diogo Pinto. Reduces asking price. We'll keep him as it is for the time being. Tackle that later. So Western Europe ongoing. I'll apply this for the time being, and then I can adjust that over the next week if I don't like what the results are bringing along to it. So this is just to get all these prompts out of the way. So in your case, normally, Musterman, when you are going through your Moneyball clinic, so like after just gauging the roster, looking at what we did initially, are you at that point immediately going into your scouting? Are you looking at least like within the same country, across continents, or sort of like how do you take your approach when you do it yourself when looking at everything scouting-wise after gauging a roster?
So yeah, at this point, I would immediately be going over into the scouting. So I tend to be very, I think you've seen, I'm very aggressive in my assessment of players, knowing full well that I'm not going to be able to sell all the players. I'm not going to be able to buy all the targets that I want either. Ultimately, the way I think about it is like the teams I support. So if I look at the Aston Villa squad right now, I would probably be our best starting 11. And I know that in a long-term sense of the long-term sense, Matty Cash is an issue at right back. Leon Bailey is inconsistent at right wing. So even in a team that's been doing really well, maybe there are at least 2 players that I definitely don't want to be in the first 11. And there's probably like 3 or 4 others that need to be improved as well, generally speaking. So you don't. So as we go through the assessment, and I'd say chuck them in the sea, I'm very much aware that actually you're probably only going to make 1 or 2 changes, and there's going to be players in your squad over the course of the next season, even in your starting lineup, that you think they could be better. So with that in mind, I will go through. I'll assess the squad as we've done up till now. I will have an idea of what I think. I tend to refine my squad planner down. So I'm like, cool, right, we've got 1 right back, 1 left back, 1 cover for both of those, 1 centre back we're happy with, maybe 2 centre backs we're happy with, and then I will start looking at those positions. We've talked about the tactic. We've talked about what you expect from it. So the areas that I'd be looking at realistically, we've got 1 right back, we've got 1 left back, we've got Ruiz who can cover at both. We've got Menia who could perhaps be emergency cover there. Centre back, we've got Mikkelson's, we've got Tayana. The rest seem like they're probably a bit too much developmental options to be relied upon. So my follow out of this is you probably need a 3rd centre back. In your pivot, you've got Rosero, you've got Mabaya, you've got Lukanic. You've possibly got Milostavu as well. Milostavu, until he actually starts winning those headers at a regular rate, you probably might want to consider him as a defensive midfielder or a fullback. Depending on your assessment of Milostavu, you might want another defensive midfielder, central midfielder type. We've got in the attacking midfielder strata, you've got Esteval, Tavares, Jojic, Trelez. Personally, I think Jojic should be sold. And that will probably mean... Right. Who's the guy that I mentioned to offer a new contract to who's not there? Matos. So potentially,
Matos,
you've got four attacking midfielders to keep. You probably want another one, and you probably want that to be a inverted winger off the left. Up front.
Yeah, which I think
get rid of Soonsup Bell.
Started the push. Here.
So up front, probably need a replacement for Soonsup Bell, and you probably need to have an eye on a replacement for Chu Sang-yoon. So from that, I would now be using the statistical performances of the players that we've already got as the baseline to find improvements in those positions. So you said you've already started the process with the left winger.
Yeah, so I got already the midfield portion sort of set up. So yeah.
I mean, you can also let's have a look through your scouted players list. Your scouts have already given back reports on 1,800 players, under the players top menu. So the top
Okay, so
menu
players in range
where it
or
says
scouted
overview
players, I'm sorry.
scouting players. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, you were there.
Oh, so this one here, players in range or scouted players? I'm sorry.
Scouted players, as they're the ones you've already got the reports
Perfect.
back on.
Oh, I see
This
what you
would
mean
be
now. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I'd be narrowing down with statistics now.
Quan, hello, good to see you. So,
Welcome in,
my
Quan.
apologies. So in this case, we would go into. Okay, good. Just now getting into looking at players and stuff. So, once we're here onto scouted players, what was the next step again? My apologies.
So I'd start up a scout search, add some criteria. So the little drop down next to new search on the right.
Okay.
There's an arrow next to the button that says new search.
Yeah, should be.
You can do it through here.
Menu should pop up. Oh, was there something different on between quick search and new search, or like where we're at?
Yeah, you can do it through here. That works as well. I'm just not used to it. I always use the little drop down button next to it. But yeah, so I would say, what are you looking for from an inverted winger?
So in this case, this is the drop down that you were talking about here? Ah, I see now. Yeah, okay.
So I think because I'm watching the stream, I'm a little behind there. yeah, exactly that. And then yeah.
Let's
so the conditions I would add.
Hold on.
Sorry. So yeah, like the conditions I would be looking at for an inverted winger is their ability to dribble and their ability to create. Oh, bless you.
Got it. I did put it on Discord just so that way it's easier for you specifically. It might kind of like triple screen show on the stream, but that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make, to be completely honest with you. It is what it is. As long as they can see our faces, that's the important part. And hello, Deadman. Good to see you. All right, so yeah, you should have the screen proper so that way you can accompany your live. So this is what you were talking about, just this drop down with the attributes option, add conditions and stuff, like its specifics.
Yeah, indeed. So with this, I'd be looking at the statistics. I think that Rodrigo Matos is your best inverted winger option at the moment. So we go back and look at his profile. We can use his metrics as a baseline.
Okay, so let me just bring this back here. So I just lost the screen for a second there. So in terms of it using Matos' attributes as sort of our standard for it?
Using his statistics.
Okay. So in terms of adding that, we would go into what? Attributes pick or adding conditions? Because I haven't used this particular side of the stream before, and so add conditions.
No worries. Let's head on over to Matos's profile so we know what statistics we're looking for first, and then come back to this screen.
Okay, so perfect. So where did he go here? There we go. Found him.
Perfect. So he's made 2.95 dribbles per 90, 0.26 expected assists. So I think that that's the kind of area we want to be looking at. So make a mental note. I'm going to make a physical note because my memory is bad as I get old.
I'm grabbing Notepad myself here on the side and just typing in. So we're looking at his dribbles and expected assists, correct?
Yeah, because that's for the inverted winger off the left. They're what the things that you expect from a winger, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. And 0.26 assists, 2.95 dribbles. Anything else specifically that you would use here, or just those two as the primary outliers for the search?
I would always try and keep it down to as few metrics as you possibly can. And then when you see the different profiles that come through from players, like from your scouted players,
Right.
you're going to lose a whole bunch of them that are never interested in signing for you anyway. You're going to lose a whole bunch that don't meet the criteria, and then a whole bunch that you can't afford. So, yeah, starting with just very few to begin.
Fair enough. We'll go into that then. So let's go back to scouting. I've got the so add condition, and then from here we would go into
stats
chalkboard. Got it.
And then movement for dribbles per 90.
Right. Okay. Dribbles made per 90.
And then it's stats general. General again. For expected assists per 90.
And then, oh, there we go. Okay, got them both here.
I have no idea where they're in a separate menu.
No worries. I just needed to bring this down. That's what it was. The arrow was getting in the way here. Okay, so we've got dribbles made per 90. He was a 2.95. So would we put this as at least 3 or 2.5, would you say, between the two?
I always go the one beneath, because if I find a player who completes if you find a player who completes 2.94 dribbles, let's say they're just 0.01 dribble less than a player, you don't want them excluded if it turns out they're better in other things as well.
Fair.
So yeah, we've got dribbles, we've got 0.2,
all right.
And then you'll probably want to add conditions for positions. So if you go back into add condition, there's an option at the top for position or above the thing.
Position. Yep, got it. Yep. Let me just make this menu a little bit bigger here, and attacking midfielder on the left. So hold on here. Expected assists per 90 is what we want, not want the expected assists randomly for no reason.
If you accidentally flick something with a mouse wheel, or I would always recommend changing position. Position is natural at to position is accomplished at, because you'll find players that are more than capable. So this is you've got 46 players here that might we don't even need to wait for scout reports. We might be able to find a candidate somewhere in here, which would be cool. Filter out those not interested in transfers. Maybe worth. I would
still.
Perfect, and we can already see when we look through this list as well is that someone like Brian Aguirre is never going to be a consideration, right? There's a player that's $47 million. We're not going to spend $47 million on a player.
Yeah.
But yeah, I tend to sort by recommendation and then work through the list. Let's have a look at any players that are affordable.
Yeah, so
good they named him twice.
Victor Garcia's on DH?
But yeah, Victor Garcia is so good they named him twice.
Yeah, no kidding. 23 years old, lighthearted. Let's see what you looked at the attacking midfielder. So his dribbles per 90 at 3.03.
Ignore him.
0.22.
We need to add in one more condition.
Go ahead.
Minutes played. So Victor Garcia only played 100 minutes there. So that's in stats general.
General minutes played.
Just minutes, yeah.
Okay.
And 1,000 should be fine. That's the equivalent of 11 full games.
Okay, perfect. Yep, that narrowed it down to 22. So Marvin de Lima, Marco Zambrano was on my list, so that makes sense. Marvin de Lima is the next one we've got. So he, just the left winger, left-footed, which, well, can't help that. But dribbles wise,
You
slightly
have a lot of them.
less than Matos. But expected assists at 0.32. Saw a good amount of minutes. 6.6 is within the range, but I think it's good to consider him. And the knowledge on him is pretty extensive at this point, but it looks like his salary demands would be a gargantuan amount from the looks of it here. So
Agreed, 100%.
he's wanted for a couple of French teams. Like as a loanee, he wouldn't be terrible, but at the same time, I think there might be some other better options out there. Zambrano, a little bit pricey, but I do want to at least take a look at him as a consideration in case we end up getting somebody ends up, being sold or whatnot. He'd be good to at least keep in mind. On his end, slightly below Matos in dribbles, 2.84 to 2.95 and 0.2 on assists. Still young at 19, so there is that potential for improvement, but being at Parma already and coming from Italy, like they are going to demand a good amount for him. So he's on the unlikely portion at this particular moment. So let's see who else.
Again, would agree.
Yeah. So a couple of pricey ones here. Dango Ouattara, 30 years old, over in Turkey. 259. His assists match exactly to Matos, but dribbles wise is a little bit below, and he's within the range, but he's a little too high from the 10.36 that we have. Plus, we also got to consider the payroll budget as well. So
I was going to say,
possible
but I would, if I was you, I'd probably ignore. I'd be scanning down the salary column, and like if they're above probably $20,000, you're probably just going to ignore them outright. I would guess. Maybe a little higher.
Gotcha.
Maybe a little higher.
Mm-hmm. So let's see who else.
So, Koshio.
So, which one? Koshio. Oh, Yasushi Koshio. He is unhappy as he is unhappy as Shonan Belmare. Wants to go to a stronger squad, which we do have. 3.27 dribbles, 0.21 assists. 24 years old. He is a professional, right-footed, and only 3 million. So that could be interesting.
The Koshio
that's within range at the very least, but
yeah, Koshio looks like the kind of profile that Moneyball loves, right? He is a player who excels in like 3 things and is pretty pappy in everything else. But what you need from an inverted winger coming off the left, you have on that attacking midfielder left side, you have a shadow striker running in front of him. On the right-hand side, you have a striker in front of him. Inside to him, you have a playmaker, and you've got a central midfielder attacking. All Koshio needs to do is cut inside, so he needs to be able to beat his man, and he needs to be able to pass it to someone else. So his bad goal output, not actually that much of a concern.
Right.
Holifab in chat as well, 100% correct. Might be worth adding a condition in for the wage, so that takes those earning too much out of the shortlist.
Out of the equations. Well, good call. Yeah. So in this case, we would go for that one. It would be not general. In this case, it would be contract set.
It should be in the contract submenu. General.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. general, and
Salary.
then
So many nested menus, my man. So many nested menus.
yeah, but I mean it's fine. So for salary conditions, we would set this to probably what, like 20 at most? Would we say 20K? Just because of, well, not even that. We'd
Yeah,
have to
I mean,
do much lower than that, given we have only 13 to work with.
you've got only, but you've also got Veerman contract is about to come off him, as is
Yeah, the
Simicast.
books, Simcas is, yeah, Simcas, yeah, a couple of them that are coming off the book. So we'll put 10K then. This is a particular off the board there, or rather, let's do 15 instead. Let's try this. How much is he making? Oh, he's only making 11,000 in Japan. So Koshio, it could be under consideration. What does his agent want specifically? Well, we're slightly interested. So they'd want 3 million. He wants somewhere between 14 and 19 to get it to work salary. Would lower it as far down as 12 and 17, but that is still a good amount of salary there. So we'll stall on it for now. I'll shortlist him just for this particular period. We can revisit him in due time. Let's lower this to 20K for the time being. So Edwin Alstable. So he's more of a natural on the right-hand side rather than the left, but his dribbles are a little bit higher than Matos, and expected assists are a little bit higher as well. So he does have sort of a profile that fits. He's just more of an accomplished player on the right-hand side, but he can play inverted winger pretty well amongst those roles. So that there could be something here, I feel.
But yeah, Ospo looks good as well. Again, he's quite specialised. Dribbles, expected assists. He's got more of a goal output than Koshio does. He doesn't contribute as much defensively, so not as good pressing. And we did identify that might be a bit of a shortcoming in your front lines. So that would be something that I'd be wary of. But
yeah, I hear
good personality. He's resolute, low wages, consistent, adaptable, big matches. Not necessarily a bad player.
Right. No, yeah, by a couple of cons here and there, but most of those are tending to be specific to communication, language, and eligibility related things. So in terms of his play style, we can ask his agent. Just we're curious. So between 3.5 and 7 million from Viking, but his wage demands would be incredibly high if he wanted to come along, and he does not want to budge from those. So that could be bust there, unfortunately.
Yes,
and he is
I'd
one
likely tell him to bugger off.
Teams and French teams. So yep. All right. So for our next guy here, Vali Toder, 24. Seems to be mostly focused on the playmaking side. Oh, I think that's a rating coming straight cracked. Hello. Thank you for rating in. Much appreciated. Not sure what's happening with the notifications on this particular screen. It might be something I need to fix on OBS, but thank you so much for coming through. Appreciated. For those who are rating in. Hello, my name is Chris, otherwise known as Brazilian Fury. Mostly a YouTube content creator for FM stuff, stream sometimes, and this is a guest stream with the one and only Musterman FM, as we are trying to moneyball this particular save that I have over in Portugal right now. Oh wow, thank you so much, appreciate it. Welcome Raiders, welcome. Glad that you like the stuff that's coming from the channel there as a whole. So yeah, this is the continuation of the Portuguese save we've been doing through this FN24 cycle, where we did the first 8 seasons offline on the YouTube channel, did season 9 for streams on both YouTube and Twitch, and then this is the off season of season 10. And then Babatundi, thank you for the follow as well. Where the hell is Stream Elements? Today's just a day for like technical issues like left, right, and center from the looks of it, man. That's crazy. So
Bless you very much, Straight
I'll
Cracks.
take a
Lovely
look
to.
here.
How was your stream, by the way?
And then kind of as I'm looking into the stream overlooks, we were looking at a couple of options to fill in our attacking midfielders on the left-hand side, as we do need to add some depth to that position. So currently we are, having some issues there. So for Toder, it seems that compared to Matos Musterman, he does have better dribbling, expected assists, has won his tackles. His pressures attempted are a little bit better than some of the other options we've seen here. Feels like he could be a good depth signing. I'm not sure if he would be like starting every game, but he does seem to have some pretty good experiences. Just his personality does scare me a little bit. Fickle can be, it can cause some issues here and there from what I've seen personally. So
he's not fickle. He just doesn't like you. Sorry, that's the Villa joke. Before we sacked David O'Leary called the fans fickle in an interview. So the fans turned up with a banner that just said, "We're not fickle, we just don't like you," which is what always comes to mind every time I see a fickle personality come up. Yeah, you're bang on there. So he might not be a big name or come anything, but like 0.31 expected assists, he is really, really good at creating. Now, if you're looking at an inverted winger off the left, you're probably not creating great angles for him to be creative. If he cuts inside, he's then really it's difficult for him to play those balls down the channel for the shadow striker, or to squeeze it through the advanced forward without a defender being able to step in. So I don't know how suited he'd be to the role as a left footer, but as an advanced playmaker off the right and adding more rotation there, he's certainly got something about him in terms of being specialised in those skills that you're looking for. All to be tempered by the fact that he's playing in Romania.
Yeah, there is that. There's some considerations with that at that point, but in terms of it, 3.1 million is not bad by any stretch. We can always just gauge what they're looking for. 11 to 16, it is a little much. He's willing to lower it ever so slightly, but man, some of these guys are wanting big wages for sure here that we're looking into so far. So that to keep in mind. And then kind of in terms of it, looking through just this particular view itself, we have a couple of others that are sort of in the categories a little bit lower. Some that are playing at lower levels as well. This guy's a Liga Portugal 2 type, so that's a sample size there that is considerable. Like, yeah, he might be having good stats in these leagues, but I mean, he's doing it at a lower level, so I'm not sure how that would translate to like a first tier league situation. So unfortunately there's that to keep in mind there at the moment. So for Satio, I'm not really too keen on him.
One player I would take a look at though is Ricardo Bravo. Plays for Tigres. The Liga MX is quite high standard. I think it's around the 10th, 12th best league in the world according to global football rankings. They do some coefficient stuff there.
So, for his end of the spectrum, his dribbles are much lower than Matos in comparison, but good expected assists. Definitely like the pressures attempted a lot more, and he's seems to bring in something on the offensive end of the spectrum there. Plus, he's played a lot of time there. Just, I mean, I'd say something about him being unambitious, but I feel like he's in Liga MX, so like I think that comes as second nature for anyone who's playing in that league, unironically at times. But that's just a North American joke they're being made.
Indeed. Now, okay. So it is worth talking about unambitious because unambitious does tend to impact players' development, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it might be worth heading over to the history tab and seeing how much it has impeded his development over the years. Has he improved year on year in terms of his output?
From the looks of it, yes. He definitely had a better season this past year than the years beforehand. He's been getting, I guess, more starts as a whole coming out of Tigres' academy. So this was sort of his breakout year from the looks of it here, with 20 goal contributions across all competitions for them.
Like, Ricardo Bravo, to me, looks very, very interesting, despite his unambitious personality. A player that can cut inside, can create, does that at a great level. He scores goals, which is pretty damn helpful too.
Yeah.
Obviously, it all comes down to those wage demands, and at the moment, it's a crossed-out value, 160k to 4.8 million. Now, if that scout report is old and his value is now shot up to like 10 million, none of this matters. But if that's closer to 160k,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, let's take a look and see what his agent says in terms of his deal. So if we're interested, between 4.1 and 6.4. So it's a raise, but it's not like an otherworldly raise. It's just salary, of course, that becomes the key issue here. The 15 to 22 instead of 17 and 24. We'll stall on it and consider him, but the profile fits pretty well, and we haven't like scouted him recently as well either, so I'm gonna just put that on him just to update that profile. But we've got him shortlisted now by doing this, so ideally we should be in a good place to know his skill set here over the next couple of days. And then yeah, Night of Knee, and again from the YouTube side, hello everybody. We had a couple of issues earlier here, but I know a couple of you guys have come through, so hello to Rio, hello to Night of Knee, hello over to Chicharon, and oh yeah, Mr. Krabs as well over on the YouTube side. Welcome, welcome. We need to eventually figure out how to get the group chats to pop in on both on the Twitch overlays and whatnot, but in due time. So yeah, with Bravo, it's a little less interesting now that we know his value kind of has like quadrupled accordingly. But I reckon his recommendation will probably jump up ever so slightly as well too now that we have also looked into it. And then for Emilio Casado, just because he is listed at 0, so I'm assuming his contract is running out, yeah, at the end of this month, which makes sense. How did he look here? So 2.82 on dribbles, 2.1, slightly lower than Matos, but pressures are sort of okay. Yeah, he's kind of meh-ish for the most part, but at best, you know, probably for consideration purposes, he might be okay-ish, but him mostly being a right-hand side player on the left. I mean, the options are not exactly there if you're keeping it at 20k, I will fully admit.
Like Emily Casado, he doesn't stand out in any regard there. And keep in mind that Espanol B, so Primera Federación Grupo Uno. Yeah, right, I can speak Spanish. Like that's a, yeah, that's quite a bit below. I would certainly expect the Portuguese second tier would be better than the At least they're. I know Spain isn't far away from Portugal, but like at least they're already familiar with the league system in the Portuguese league. League Tur?
Right,
Tur.
yeah,
That's
that
that's a
explains
word.
that. Yeah, because we do have a good amount of transfer budget to play with as well too. I am gonna just balance this out slightly and just increase our salary situation here just to see if there's any more choices that pop in, and some of them do. So Julian Fernandez got scouted back in February. What did his agents say in terms of what they're looking for? 12 to 19. Yeah, this is out of our range, so we're going to ignore that completely, but still see if they can get a more modernized report on him. Right now, Ostbo looks like kind of our best option, to be honest. And Toter as a cheaper option, but one that'd be more so like the backup. Bravo too. So like between these three, I feel like we have something pretty solid here. I do have the scoutings already happening for these guys here just to get everything updated. Any others that you see on this list that you want to take a look at yourself here, Musterman, or do you want me to kind of increase the wage portion and see if any more results pop in? What are you thinking?
No, I don't think you want to increase the wage.
Hey,
So
Mad
as we
Scientist is
discussed
here.
earlier,
Hello. What the raid as
hello.
well. I did not, again, my notifications are in hell, but hello everybody. Good to see you all. Hope stream went well for you all. Botaji. Hope you're all doing as well as humanly possible over there. I am doing a Moneyball clinic for our Portuguese save at União de Tomar with Musterman. We are in our 10th season, going into our 10th season. Right now we just did the player overviews and whatnot first. Now we're starting to look at the scouting aspects of how to sort of Moneyball find a couple of players to insert into the system here. How will stream on your end of things, Matt? Are you doing did you do Parma, or was it something different on your end of the spectrum there? Just let us know whenever. And yeah, just to be on the safe side, just out of curiosity, I'm gonna bring this up to like 60k. One more person populated. I don't see who it was. Let's see. Right. El Velasco Middlesbrough. He is out of our range completely. I do get that. But he fits the profile pretty well, and they will not be interested in letting him leave on loan. So I will shortlist him just to be on the safe side for the next year. In case something happens and Middlesbrough decides to list them on loan or whatnot. So that is safe to say. All right, so just to kind of keep things moving along, Musrin, do you want to look at a different position that we can grab a couple stats from and do a slightly different search? What would you think? Like, should we look at center backs, strikers, just for the new folks coming in?
I would recommend looking at centre backs. I think that realistically, we've identified you've only got two that you can rely on at the moment. So I think that would be a good point to start at. So let's refamiliarise ourselves. We've got Rene Tayana, who was arguably your best centre back. He won 78% of his headers, 80% of his tackles. He was really good at winning back possession. Not particularly great in terms of possession loss. That's an area that we could look to improve. So as a starting point, I would look at those duels. We want players who can match Rene Tayana in tackle win rate and header win rate. They've kind of got to be our minimum acceptable standard in that regard.
Sorry, I just was writing down the stats here over. I've got a notepad separate from everything here where I'm just putting everything down. So 1.70 for tackles, 4.91 for headers, 1 And then
don't worry about the
center back position.
Don't worry about the raw numbers. It's the percentages that matter. So 80% tackles won, 78% headers won.
Yeah, this is more so I can go for here. So for the first one, so this one would be tackles per 90 or key tackles per 90 in this case for the first parameter that we're searching for.
No. Don't touch the numbers. Just go for percentages. Just tackle. So stats chalkboard. Tackles and steps. Tackle completion ratio.
Okay.
So we
got it.
We spoke earlier about if a team has, say, 60% possession, their defenders won't have the same number of opportunities to win tackles. So if you go by a raw tackle number, you end up excluding very, very good players and very good teams because they don't make a high volume, but they win them at a good percentage. So the same with aerial challenges. We want header win rate, not headers won.
So not headers one ratio in this case instead, or
no. We want tackle completion ratio, headers won ratio. We don't want the numbers.
Okay,
we just want the percentages.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Perfect. So we got that here, and then the percentages, we're changing that over to 60. Would you say?
No. So tackle completion rate was 80%. And header win rate was 78%.
Okay, so in this case, 80%, 78. Since it only allows the percentages, let's just do those at 70 for the time being then. Okay, so first and foremost, Miguelito, Portuguese, which obviously helps with the tradition. So center back. So for him, 90% of his tackles won, 2.73. Headers won, 76%. So just slightly lower. So it says Ipswich Town, but what's his situation right now? So he's with Benfica. Okay, that explains that, but he went on loan to Ipswich, which is ending as of June. Making $9,500 per week. On his end of the spectrum. Says he's not for sale, but I do want to ask his agent specifically about it. Benfica wants a lot of money for him, so that is going to be a no-go, unfortunately. But that makes sense with it being like a rival club at this point of the division. It's unfortunate, but like I understand. It just kind of sucks. All right, so Florian Peter is our next one. He is wanted already by Man City and Hoffenheim. So this feels like it's going to be higher when we do ask about it, but we'll entertain it regardless. So as someone who played all his games at center back, which is a good thing. So for his tackles won, it's listed at 86%. And then 71% for his headers. And you said it was 80% and 78% respectively from what Tayana's stats were mentioning, right?
Indeed, yes. So
okay, perfect.
Like 70% is quite reasonable header win rate. It's not great. There's no harm in keeping an eye on him, but you probably don't want to dip below, say, the 74, 73% if you can avoid it. Now, we don't know what the other players are going to look like in this list right now. So it might well be worth coming back to and checking a little bit later down the line.
Yeah, definitely. And I do want to just get his information from his agent immediately just to see what that updated value is looking like. So between 900K to 9.8 million, so it's a wider range. The wages would be pretty big, but he would be basically like a consistent presence in our backline. They don't want to budge from the salary, which, hey, understandable. It is what it is. But pretty solid option, I'd say, for consideration moving forward. And he had some European experience with the Conference League earlier in the year as well. Hyphen Super League, that's what, Swiss, I want to say. If I'm seeing Young Boys, it's probably...
It is indeed. Is that
Switzerland
Basel?
that we're talking about. So, Basel. Okay, yep, there it is. I just didn't recognize the bat for a second. But, yeah, pretty decent option there as a whole. Young as well, which fits the criteria of the club and who we've been bringing in recent years. Now, here's an interesting one. Lucas Saxenian, Brazilian, playing in Greece. Over the levels there. Let's see what he's looking like. So, tackles won at 91% off 27 appearances. Headers won at 73% there. So, not too bad. Matching up on those numbers pretty closely to what Tayana's like base stats are at. And the cost is... this is a player that we have fully scouted. We just don't have the information from his agent, which we can ask about right now. So Kalamata would want somewhere between 800k and 1.7 million, which is definitely affordable, as is the salary. Yeah, they want to keep things as they are. We'll stall it for the time being, but not gonna lie, Musterman, to be honest, this could be one of the guys that we should consider for at least from a monetary value comparison to what the statistics are giving us here.
Saxenian seems quite good value. Again, that header win rate, we say sort of around 73, 74 is the lowest we probably want to look at. He just about hits that, which is great. What's really encouraging to see here is his possession won numbers and his possession loss numbers. So he is really good at reading the game, but he's also exceptionally safe with the ball, which is weird because he plays short, simple passes. He plays no through balls. So you expect him to be safe with the ball. Tayana is progressive, so that's okay. You've got progressive centre backs there. He's not. You don't need him to come in and be progressive. He also knocks ball past opponent, which seems very different to what you would expect from a player that is like, oh God to God, don't give me the ball and expect me to pass it. But I will run like a crazy motherfucker. Oh, sorry, swore again.
No, that's fine. The stream itself, we're good for that. It's sort of lingers between the PG-13 R ratings. We're golden. I do find it hilarious because it feels like it's the most Brazilian thing for him, where he wants to be super careful and then just his inner Brazilian takes over and he tries to knock it past an opponent regardless of the circumstances. So, let's look at a couple more just to be on the safe side here. He's already shortlisted, so that's great, but he could be our guy, all things considered. But we also have Bernardo Vital from Estoril Praia, which is the club in which René Tayana did come from last season as well. So let's take a look at him. A little bit on the older side, 31 years old, but experienced in that regard. Tackle ratings here are showing to be at 88%, so 1.03. Headers, 73. So he is on the lower percentile for the headers portion, but kind of matching on tackles one on his side of the spectrum there. He does seem to be a little bit more on the careful side with his playing style in terms of staying back, not diving into tackles, going more so for long-range passes rather than taking shots and that sort of thing. So
if you were to compare... Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, I was just saying more so in terms of the comparison, like for a player that would fit registration needs, could be a solid piece, but I mean, what are you thinking on your end of the spectrum?
His possession one numbers are really bad. So, again, if we consider things in relation to the amount of times a player is on the ball, now, so passes completed can be a very good indicator, roughly, for a team's possession stats. Bernardo Vital is on the ball, completes 50 passes. That's just below average. Now, if you've got below average amount of possession, you expect to perform more defensive actions. You have less possession over the course of the game, so he has more opportunities to win the ball. and yet his possession one numbers are pretty shit. So I'd be very wary on Vital personally. All these annoying little bits of nuance makes it really hard to keep track of.
Hey, no worries. It's part of what we're here for. And Braga's already being interested on him as well too, so we'd have competition for that within the league from doing it. So, in the meantime here, I am kind of curious to see if we do get a couple more guys, if we increase this sort of closer to 30 on the wage side, and just see if anybody else pops in. A couple more folks have. Luciano Martin, he is not going to be as affordable just because already playing in the Prem. But numbers-wise, yeah, his tackles, one, are good. His headers are like right at that range, but he is overly expensive and signed for a long time. So we're just going to forget we ever looked at him in the first place. Just on Bumble, he's getting loaned out to a Zweite Bundesliga team, rather, in this case. Who's he with? Monaco. Okay, yep. So he's already on a big French team over here. And the odds are solid that, yeah, he would be costly on top of it all. Good player, though. I will say that, just out of our range in particular. Let's see. Ilhaji Malik Diouf, Senegalese. Has been playing in the Netherlands, is wanted by Cardiff, so that's a fairly big team trying to look at him here. Let's take a look at his stats. So 81% on tackles won, just slightly meets the criteria. On the most of the guys we've seen have just been on the lower end of the headers. Tayana's really good at this stuff if we're having to compare him to the rest of these guys. My God. Only issue with this one would be just the transfer fee being way too much, unfortunately. But I mean, for the most part, he looks okay for whatever, but it seems like he's more of a fit like as a left back according to scouting rather than as a center back. So
I was going to say his performance looks like he's been playing at left back. Those statistics.
Yeah, seems very much guided as left back. So Sendokana, 33 years old, a little bit expensive on his end, but statistically, no, the headers are at 72%. We're just gonna walk away from this and pretend this never happened. Okay, let's see a couple of others here. Really, it's interesting that a lot of these results have been younger guys that have been showing up.
Lewis Kummer is amazing for a meme name.
Meme name is there. His headers, unfortunately, at 72%. It is a little bit lower than the threshold. The tackles are at 83, which is nice. Value-wise, he looks okay. So let's just do our due diligence here and ask these questions. He is with Porto, though, so that would be a way of sticking it to them if we did get him, if he's not too... Yeah, and he's not even too expensive in terms of salary and whatnot. It's just Porto sees him as a fringe player right now.
It also says that, it's because it says he's a fringe player. That means you'll probably be able to get him from much closer to the bottom end of the value range as well. So he's probably going to be closer to 350k than he is to 3.6 million.
Yeah. Right, yep, that's another that we have, we can add to the short list for the time being over this next year, especially as long is going to be ending coming up this month before he goes back to Porto. And if he's a French player in Porto's books, who knows, they might be willing to deal him out accordingly. Romario Mendes over in getting borrowed, sent to Watford for loan. He was his original club. Inter Milan, okay. Let's go back to him real quick here. So yeah, his betting value high, so 76. Yeah, his values aren't matching, unfortunately, in terms of both tackles and headers. There's on the lower spectrum, so that is a no dice. Fran seems cheap, but also he's playing in like the 4th tier Spanish football, so that's kind of a situation. João Vaz, that's a 3rd tier league. La Liga, EA Sports, Miguel Nobrega, Almeria. So he's playing in the top tier Spain while being loaned out to Almeria. At 32, a little bit older. His original club is Lorient over in France. Let's see, what are his stats looking at? I need to stop pressing the back button here. Okay, so for him, 93% tackles, 73% headers, so he just barely meets the criteria on headers, but he is tall, he is affordable, he is Portuguese, so I don't know, what you thinking?
So again, I'm a little on the possession one numbers, but yeah, as a Portuguese player, light-hearted personality isn't really that good or bad. I quite like having a nice mix of personalities in there, even if they're not optimal. But your team, you said that your transfer policy is to sign young players. The squad is young. Having someone who could potentially be a little bit more of a steady figure in that squad could be good.
Yeah.
He's got very low aggression. Then the volume of tackles that he engages in, he might win them, is probably a reflection of that, and it might be a similar issue to what you have with what was his name? Is it Bradel Kiwa? Bradel Kiwa had a very similar shortcoming.
Yeah, now that
in
you
that
mentioned
regard.
it, yeah, same sort of outlook into that. So while he'd be nice, and again, I don't mind bringing in a couple of elder statesmen if the situation fits on that, but I could see that not working out too well just because of, as you mentioned, the lack of aggression when we
also worth remembering that we're looking for depth here. Essentially, it's great if we can find somebody to usurp one of. I'm looking up the names again. Tejana or Mikkelsen's in the starting lineup, but that's not the pressing goal here. So, having someone who's just solid and experienced can be very good.
Yeah, we're trying to basically find a third man for that center back spot that we can alternate and bring on board in case injuries happen and whatnot. So, Nobreg, I think, just given there are certain things against him, but I do think that if it's a press in case of emergency, paying less than $1 million for a guy that could give us a solid 1 or 2 years off the bench isn't a bad idea, even with 1 or 2 specifics not being 100% of what we need there. In the meantime, though, Emir Garcia.
Sorry, Brazil. Can I just ask a little question about etiquette on with your channel? So Winter Soldier is trying to gloss over the fact he was late with a shout out. Are we allowed to give Winter Soldier grief? Are we allowed to bully the mods here? Is the question.
I mean, he will just bully you right back. It's in his nature. So do it at your own risk, is what I would say.
Perfect. Winter Soldier 2814. Get your head in the game. I'm joking. You don't know.
Completely fine. Yeah. Travis specifically, like he and I go a long ways back on our side of the spectrum. So it's one of the situations in which like you give him shit, he'll give it right back to you, and vice versa. It's the way that tends to work on that the nature of the beast.
Bring it on.
But I did want to look. Shit is bullying mods. This will never happen on Mustard's channel. Oh, Crudmo. If you only knew. Only in Dutch. Unfortunately, yeah, it's the transfer value for him that I think will be the undoer as a whole. But I mean, he does play in Brazil, so there is that aspect of Where, yeah, the Red Bull merchants would want a good amount of money for him, but again, his headers are at 71. My goodness. Some of these guys are slacking on the headers end of the spectrum. I'm like, do we need to raise that to 80 just to be on the safe side, or what the fuck? Yeah, that's crazy.
Like, so header win rate is almost always going to be lower than tackle win rate. So you're going to have a little bit of slacking in that regard. But yeah. Who else do we have in that list? Do you have, like, there are some players. Do you have Diogo there? Sorry, from at Metz.
Yep, he just popped up here. Give me 1 second and let me bring him on. So yeah, Diogo, 19 years old, and Metz, listed for loan, which is a good thing. So we could take a gander on him. Small, 13 appearances, small sample set. Hello, Zapalo, good to see you. Appreciate you coming through there. So yes, it is a crossover episode that we're doing right now. But yeah, for his sample size, 96% of tackles won, 78% of headers won. Obviously, like at 5'10", he is a little bit shorter than your usual central defender type. But I mean, if he's winning his tackles and winning his headers at 5'10", that's pretty impressive, all things considered.
I said that and then saw his possession one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's the only issue. And he did this with the second team at Metz too, so there is that, unfortunately, kind of clouding it. But I guess if it's a break in case of emergency as a loanee, you could do worse for certain. You could do better, but you could also do worse. So, yeah, we'll keep him in our thoughts, I guess. Let's see if there's anybody else populating. Quite a couple more choices here. Anybody that's jumping
looks quite interesting.
So Nathan Zeze over at Benevento. Yep, got him here. 6'3", Frenchman, playing in Serie B. He is wanted by a couple of Serie A and Liga 1 clubs, so it seems like his performance caught a couple made a couple of eyeballs pop.
Are those clubs definitely Serie A League clubs at this stage in the save?
Yeah, so in terms of like how they were doing, you mean, or?
Yes, they are. Sorry, I was just looking through the wanted thing rather than going to the transfer page, so I wasn't certain which leagues those teams were in. Oh, they could have been relegated.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So basically, yeah, from the looks of it here,
but,
Palermo
they are
have active interest. Mm-hmm. Which fair game, yeah. So 26, so 78 versus 80, 76 versus 78. So like his headers are higher up than most of the folks we've looked at. Affordable within that 850K to 4.7. That's something that we could work with and balance the budget around as needed for that. Let's ask his agent. We're slightly interested. He went between 19 and 27. Would reduce it between 17.5 to 24. So wage demands are not too terrible there. Yeah, it's a bit of guesswork for his transfer value, but yeah.
So Zeze might be. So he's playing at a lower standard than the Portuguese league at the moment, but the possession won, possession lost stats are really, really encouraging. The question being is whether at that wage you feel that he would be a improvement. Like, would he go straight in as a starter over? What's his name? Mikkelson's. Now, I would say he probably would. Yeah. Mikkelson's has a similar header win rate, but a really bad tackle win rate. But would you prefer him coming in as a starter on big money, or the Brazilian guy in Greece coming in probably as a backup on much nicer money.
Yeah, between the two, and I think we can even probably compare them since we've been looking at both player types. So where is Sexeman? There we go. We can kind of compare and contrast at the center back spot for both of them here. Oh, where did you disappear to? There we go. Keep forgetting the window stuff is finicky for showing us from the Discord call. But I mean, in terms of what we're looking at here, somewhat similar profiles as mentioned. More number of headers won by Sexemian, but the percentage-wise advantage goes to Zeze on his end of the spectrum. I think the encouraging thing with Sexenian is the fact that he is 22 and he would be on a lower wage. So I'm almost favoring him a little bit more than Zeze, where we would have competition to try and get him compared to Sexenian, where we kind of be ahead of the curve a little bit and be able to just integrate him in as a third man. And with Mitchelson's too, he is still young, so I would expect him ideally to improve on what he did this season and hopefully clean up some of the
Chris, bear in mind, I've got someone at the door.
Encouraging. Oh, yep, no worries. Take a moment there. But yeah, to go back to Zapala's point earlier, it is a crossover episode where we had 2 or 3 different things go wrong entirely, including my internet deciding to just take a giant dump on me, unfortunately, before we came back for the second round. But really appreciated that you guys have stuck through it in between the raids we had with Stray Cracked coming in and then Mad Scientist coming in. I wished Stream Elements was working to actually send me those notifications across on this particular viewpoint here. That would have been, phenomenal. But alas, what can you do?
Sorry about that.
But, oh yeah, no worries at all. You're good. Life happens in a way. I think as mentioned, then it's thinking about it, like thinking on a futuristic perspective. Sexenian, I think, would be my choice. But if we're going for a win right now mode, Zeze probably would be the choice to make, especially if we can get him in a low enough transfer fee and then just negotiate the wages accordingly. So
I mean, my reading of the situation is Sexenian speaks Portuguese. So that's a big, big tick. Mm-hmm. From an adaptability perspective, settling into the squad immediately, that's worth considering. The question is, where does the Greek Super League compare to Ligue 2? Because their outputs, there's not a massive amount of difference there. Sexenian is better in the tackle. Zeze is better in the air. Both are really, really safe on the ball. Both are really good at winning possession as well. So in terms of yes, there are differences, but it's all kind of negligible. And then what you want? Do you want a starter? Do you want a squad player?
Yeah, fair. You know what? Yeah, with Sexenian, let's make an offer and see what Kalamata says for him in that regard. We'll fire off with like $1 million initially, see what they get back to us.
Of course, what you could also do as well is leave it up to fate and chuck out a poll on Twitch and get them to then you can blame them when you don't win the league.
But in terms of it, blaming the stream is the easy way out at this point. I think it's more entertaining if I make the choice, and if it blows up in my face, stream blames me. At least the engagement that way tends to be a little bit better, so we'll just roll with that in this case here.
No, see,
yes,
I wouldn't even blame. I wouldn't even blame Quadmo. It's not Quadmo's fault that we bought Dylan Shambos. That squarely sits on someone else. Quadmo's great. Trust Quadmo.
It's like pet the mod kind of situation there. All right, so with that in mind and us having made the offer here, let's go back to the scouted players portion and then roles wise. I know we were looking at a couple of them. We looked at the wings, we looked at the defenders. Were you trying to also look as well into the striker role as well, I believe? Just because we also have the considerations of possibly replacing one and having to sell this one over here as well, kind of a situation.
So yeah, the third position I'd be looking at is striker. You need both. You need a backup to replace Susabel, and you need to have at least some preparation for the possibility of losing Sang Yoon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So for these, what are the two aspects that we would be picking in this case? Would be looking at non-penalty expected goals, shots.
So goals, shot cover, and for an advanced forward, I recommend using dribbles because dribbles. Look, an advanced forward is still not making like mega amount of dribbles, as you can see. Cho Sang-yoon makes 1.14 here, but it's probably the best indicator of a striker's pace. The faster strikers tend to complete more dribbles because they can push the ball into space and run onto it, which is probably one of the most useful aspects for an advanced forward.
Fair enough. So 0.86 for goals, dribbles 1.14. So we'll use these as our baseline initially when looking at everything. So we're going to change the position over to striker. And then from here, it would be what? Stats general or stats chalkboard in this situation?
A stats chalkboard movement for dribbles.
Oh, yep. And then
general for goals. Yeah.
Okay. And stats general, and goals. Wait.
90, yeah. Stats general.
General. Oh, goals per 90. There we go. I was looking for that. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Okay, so for Son Yoon, dribbles made was at the 1.14 range, 1.14 for him, so we'll leave it at 1 for the time being, just as a general starter. And then his goal output was 0.86, so what do we say for doing this at 0.7? Actually, no, at 0.8 in this case if we're looking for his possible replacement if needed be in that situation.
Yeah.
Or should we leave it
so
at
you're probably going to be
0.70
looking
just to look for the backup first? What do you think?
Start high, adjust it down if we need more and more options.
Okay. Okay, so Ibrahim Mohammed, which is someone that had popped in on my scouting spectrum here, so that's an immediate guy there. Expensive, but fits the criteria, but he fits the criteria in the Nigerian league, so there is a difference between that and the Portuguese league to consider as a whole there. Definitely a dribbly boy in his own league, though. That much is for certain. So,
look at his history.
Here.
He's
sorry, yeah. Nigerian initials, but I was looking at. He's been playing in Saudi. Okay, yeah, that explains that.
But also, he had a whole season without scoring. Well, half a season without scoring as well. So yes, he's had a really good year this year, but I'd be scared of his price tag for a player that literally failed to score a goal the season before.
The consistency, yeah. I hear that. So will be Jahara da Rocha over Grêmio, which Brazilian strikers developed in some of these bigger clubs tend to be pretty reliable. But he has already won it by Cardiff and by PSV, so that shows you like there's some interest in him already, and that price tag is, oh dear lord, that's probably his release clause more than anything, I would guess, on that. But
So
good performer.
It's probably worth remembering
considered
is that if you're the starter player, it's likely to only be signed if Sun Yang goes. You're going to be selling Sun Yang will go for 50 mil as his release clause. You've got a 50% keep, so
yeah,
like anything around 20 million is probably good.
Yeah, enough to get him at the very least and see him as a possible alternative if we do have to replace him, of course. Yeah, I see what you mean. Let me shortlist him for the time being, then, just for this next year, and see what happens. We do have extensive knowledge on him already, so we are good in that regard. And his best position is as an advanced forward as well, too, which helps with role suitability for what we do. So that is nice.
How do you pronounce his first name?
Christian Ponce. Ubijahara. Or wait, hold on. Ubirajara? Oh my goodness, that is a very complicated name, in fact. So Ubirajara. Yeah, Ubirajara.
Can I guess that's not a common Brazilian first name then?
Not a very common Brazilian first name, but not out of the realms for a Brazilian first name, is what I will say on that matter. Give me one quick second here. I just realized that it is cold outside and my feet are freezing, so I'm just throwing on some socks on the underneath the whole camera work here. We're not turning this camera perfect. So next guy would be Christian Ponce. He looks interesting for a 20-year-old out of Chile. So he's wanted by a couple of clubs from the looks of it here. Cardiff. Man, Cardiff is scouting South America. That's... my God. Everyone we're interested in, Cardiff, also wants them. No such things will happen, Credible. I'm not trying to get banned by Twitch. Thank you very much. In the meantime, though, so for his dribbly boy stuff, slightly over. Sangyun, good goal contributions there, but this is being done with Colo-Colo in the Chilean league, so there is a slight jump from that to the Portuguese leagues. But as a South American, his percentage rates here, he was scouted almost 4 months ago at this point, so I will at the very least get a full report on them just to see exactly what is being worked with and what would his agent say as for his updated amounts. Between 4.9 and 9.4 million. Wants a higher wage, though, for sure. So there is that to consider. But
a couple of things to consider here, right? So the Chilean league is a lower quality, but it's not that far off. The Chilean league is pretty decent in FM at least. If I see that level of disparity between goals scored and non-penalty XG, I immediately think that they must be a penalty taker and it's being boosted. Have a scroll down.
And we can probably find that here. Yeah.
He has not taken a single penalty.
3 goals. That is crazy, actually. And 3 of those goals in the Copa Libertadores as well, which is a pretty big deal, all things considered. Like, that's a continental competition that is pretty high up there.
He's 20 years old, and also he's already got better than 2-to-1 goal scoring ratio as well. Look down at, if you scroll all the way down to his history, 63 goals in 122 games. He's been scored consistently as a senior player as well.
Yeah. Let's take a look at his career stats and see where he did. Oh man, so this was like a down season for him from the looks of it. I wonder if there were any injury issues and whatnot, because he banged on 26 the previous year. But then again, I just remember now, they're halfway through their season right now because they run from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. So, yeah, he's on pace to match up to what he did during last year in this situation. And all right, he looked solid. I'm not gonna lie. I'm actually really impressed.
Moreover, he's comfortable playing as an attacking midfielder as well. So, could be a player that plays as a shadow striker. So, like, potentially, when I look at Christian Ponce, I see a player that could potentially be your lead striker if Cho leaves. I see a player that you could also potentially bring in even if Cho doesn't leave and be a really dependable backup and has flexibility in other positions.
Yeah, I agree.
If Cardiff don't sign him.
Yeah, if Cardiff don't sign him. So in this case, here's what I'm going to do, just to kind of at least get the feelers out there. Saying 4.9 as the suggested initially. Oh, they're willing to do it for 4.9. Huh. I legitimately thought they would push this to like a 7 or an 8 million situation. So, I guess we can see what they come back with in a moment, and we can always renegotiate if need to be. Really quick, I am going to move like 1 or 2 days in advance just to see what those 2 initial offers we've made come up as, and then we can come back to the stats portion for any other positions here. Oh boy. Marseille and Braga have entered the race immediately.
That was fun whilst it lasted, right?
But he is very interested in negotiating terms. Let's take a look and see what terms are they wanting to negotiate here. So, regular starter is the recommended thing for him. I'm going to try something a little bit different just in case. Okay, we could do squad player instead, which I'm more comfortable with for like his first year, just to help him integrate a little bit easier. Definitely a good amount of wage. We can't do all of these fun, crazy little raises and whatnot and salary after reaching club league games. Let's see. Raise the agent fee ever so slightly. What's up?
All I would say is that's going to be more than Cho is on. He's a very, very good player. But if you're trying to find those marginal gains or wanting a player that comes in for less realistically.
I hear that.
And Holofab's not a fan of the release fee.
In terms. Yeah. Let's see if we can do. I'm going to try to work out a couple of things here. Let's try. So release clause at 0. Goals. In this case, we are doing the ones in which we believe might be goals that he doesn't achieve over the next year or two. But that if he does, then hey, it is what it is. Just to see if we can entice him to take a lower salary.
Well, if you win the league or the Champions League this season, there won't be like 2 years down the line to worry about. You don't have it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. We win the UEFA Conference League, you get a bonus. We win the Portuguese League, you get a bonus. We won the Allianz Cup, fuck it, you can have a bonus. Just work with me on this. He is willing to work ever so slightly on all of this. Here is where I'm going to get cheeky. 30. If you play 30 games, you can have 40. Yearly salary raise, not a fan of that. Not in my house. I'm not about that life. But I'll tell you what. If you make these contributions happen of 30 goals, 30 assists, fuck it, you can have a bonus. Let's see, can we add anything more? International cap bonus. Sure. If you get into your country's team on a consistent basis, have a bonus. Actually, yeah, yearly salary raise, if we keep it at 5%, I am somewhat okay with that here. All right, let's gauge it and see. He is wanting just that, the club games salary to be super reached. Okay, if you play 30 games, 42, let's see, what else can we
808 George fan
for him? Oh yeah, team of the year bonus. If you make 10 of the year, you can get a bonus. Top goal scorer, somewhat, if you some way somehow hit that. Here, have another bonus. Bonuses, bonuses, bonuses everywhere. And just to be safe, you know what? We will lock this in. Okay, we might be in business. Tough negotiating, a lot of incentives, but we've at least, as you mentioned, kept them underneath, like, you know, our top striker and what he's making at this particular current moment. Let's see what the fates bring us, especially with all these other teams. Yeah, Marseille's just gonna be like, yeah, fuck it, here's 60K a week, and we're like, well, can't compete with that right now, so have fun. But yes, we have progressed into early June now, everybody. I mean, to be fair, Holy, we do have like 17 million in the bank from the European money that we made by getting into by winning in a European competition and getting to the finals of the other one. We've also had our transfer revenue percentage increase to 73%. Hooray! So that is all said and done. But yes, those bonuses might wreck shop on that. I did transfer list already. Sunsapel and Somolinos, and then the other guy. So I did do that when we were going through like the scouting portion. So hopefully we'll hear back on stuff like that.
Get in the sea, Sunsapel.
It's like, go to the waters and don't come back. So those are our staff members here signing deals. And then Dark Sendo with the subscription over on YouTube according to Stream Elements. So thank you for that if you are watching. It is appreciated. Let's see here. So, Saxenian, they are interested in talking, but they want a loan until the end of the season, which, nah, no. I'm good. Like, he'll play with us this year anyway. So, please buzz off. Emergency backup, so he wouldn't even be demanding that much time to begin with, which makes sense for like his current set. But this is a player who was flying under the radar,
get those years up. Get those years up. 2-year contract, my arse.
5 years. It's like, fuck it, we're doing it in 5. Okay, so Saxenian is looking like to be... He's probably the most likely signing of the two, given that nobody else has been in on for him. So there is that. Let me just... I just want to see how these deals pan out, and then we will go back onto the scouting screen to like go through one more position. Hold on. It's the nature of the Discord capture. I just have to like not click away from it.
two news articles there that were a little bit scary. Forward row,
yep.
you've got Ruiz.
Figured. Yeah. Mm.
Like Ruiz is ready to take over that role.
Huh?
We've had both Colour and Saxenian, indeed. I know.
Yeah. It's the Musterman effect on these, so could be on the move with União de Tomar right backs, 25 minimum fee clause. Yeah, there is that fee clause but significantly higher than many would consider fair value for the player. No, 25 million is fair value. Fuck you, first and foremost. How dare you? Like, how dare you imply my players deserve less than what I have their release clauses set to be? So Rosero signed an extension on his side, so that's from earlier in the year, so we're going to go on that. We also increased his clause ever so slightly. They wanted that clause to be at 35. I couldn't negotiate it out of that initial extension before we wrapped up season 9, but hey, at least he's on a new deal that reflects his ability, and he's not going to be bitching about me for an improved contract, so I am good with all that. In the meantime,
not going to be bitching about you publicly. Behind your back, scores.
Yeah, behind my back, probably. In public, not so much. So against the Maldives, Cho Sang-yun gets a hat trick, which good for him. Yeah, that's his senior goals for his country. Love to see that for him. Okay, and we'll wait for this next one here. Okay, so I usually have just the GM do all of the staff signings and extensions. Yep. And then Ruiz's extension, new contract is kicked in officially, so that 80 million for him a minimum, so that's going to make it harder for other teams to just snag him out. Rojas is getting called up for Copa America. Moreno's just B team striker depth, so like at the very least he's providing us with something on there. Perfect. Let's move on to the 5th real quick, or rather no, we are in the 5th. I keep forgetting with your skin where the loading screen is like next to the left side of the day that we're on rather than like to the right hand side. It's just, it still takes me a little bit to get used to like how that looks and me thinking that it's on the day beforehand rather than the day that it is. So we're moving on to the 6th now. What do we have emails wise? Any transfer news? Like any news at all here? Just one email.
Gonna make you wait. Edging you.
Just the goalkeeper.
Edging you.
Mm-hmm. Yep, they are in the mood to do set edging here as a whole. Kind of crazy, but okay. Bought a bro performing in international friendlies. Well, Saxenian is going to be signing with União de Tomar, so that is our first Moneyball signing officially here. Hooray for us! you and I can't hear this, but I'm sure everybody else that is in stream heard it from the soundboard, which is all that matters. So, perfect. So we got one. What about the second one now? Are they going to make us wait a while on that? Or is it going to be a fun situation where they let us make it all happen? So, hold on here. Sorry, just gotta...
Does the stream get to hear the Discord sounds? So if I abuse that, does everyone get to hear it?
I think they might have heard it, but just very faintly. I wouldn't be surprised. So tax bill for 325k, not too bad. Overall, revenues increased. Our world scouting budget is updated now. They did hear the quack. They did hear the quack, and they heard the air horn, I'm sure. Beep 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 beep. All right, so I guess while we are getting edged accordingly here, let's go back to what we were looking at. So I think you mentioned we were wanting to look also at the defensive midfielders as well too, Musterman, or was it one of the wingers instead? I'm sorry, I keep forgetting.
So defensive mid, I think you've got four players there in Mabaya, Lukanic, Milostivio, and Rosero. If you don't see Milostivio as a defensive midfielder, then maybe you'd want a fourth there. But I think your priority is that inverted winger. We've got some scout. We're waiting on some scout reports for the inverted winger. I think that's the priority.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And obviously, if a bid comes in for Rojas, that will be a much bigger priority.
Yeah, for sure. So, in the meantime, this is what we're getting recommendations-wise on the inverted winger position here. Now, Pablo with Arsenal, that's a huge amount of money. He's 19, but he is loan listed, which for a year rental to try and get us over the border and like win a title, I'd be fine with taking a loan. That would not be a big deal. So in comparison to Rodrigo Matos, his dribbles are way higher, 2.95 for Matos, 3.65 for him. And then expected assists,
like less than two
right
games.
around the same range. Matos is a little bit higher. Yeah, there is that though, small sample size of that. Shit. Do we have any other
you can't really judge off that, unfortunately.
Yeah, he did have some loan spells with Real Oviedo there, where I wish we could see that previous year's like pizza chart, to be completely honest, just to get a better gauge on stuff. But alas, right. So we will disregard that for the time being. Jesus Santana. Five games, 16. Oh, I was looking at the wrong positions. Yeah, not really a whole lot there. Plus, he's still very young and playing at a lower league level. You know, I wish with these that we could take, because I know we can filter the data like over here as well. So should we actually
add conditions?
Hold on here.
Bottom half.
Oh yeah, there we go. The conditions, that's what we're looking for. So, man, that's unfortunate. Because it would be nice if we could just add the stats right here and just do the same exact search screen that we had on these recommendations, just to see what they were giving us. And most of these guys are wanted. Just looking at this guy as a stick it to Porto type situation, but he only had 2 appearances, so we're not judging it off of that by any stretch of the imagination. This Benfica guy, let's see, 11 appearances, like appearances, just not all that much. Of us, let's see. What about you? Nope. Barely any appearances. Oh man. Seems like the guys with appearances are like these super expensive ones, from the looks of it here.
Naturally.
It's being too offensive for Twitch. But so Bernardo Ferreira, 40 with Lecce, but they are in was it Serie B? Yeah, Serie B playoffs. How did they do actually? They won them, so they are getting promoted next season. Okay. Not bad, not bad. So he helped with a promotion bid. That's nice to know. Yeah, stats-wise, I don't think he matches what we're looking for, unfortunately. So, all right, let's.
And how are the scout reports coming on for the players we've?
In terms of like the.
How are the scout reports that we asked for?
Just the overview?
So we scouted. No, we scouted like 3 or 4 players with the inverted winger role, didn't we? Yoshio, Bravo.
Yeah,
if you go recruitment focus, scout priorities, you should see how they're getting on.
Yeah. So...
You're scouting Karim Kanate.
He's going away to Galatasaray anyway, but I just figured it'd be funny to kind of see what the hell he was up to. So Ricardo.
So for context, for those that weren't in the stream earlier, Karim Kanate was on loan at Porto last season. He scored 11 goals during the course of the season. 7 of them were against União de Tomar in 3 games. Just like it appears that Porto brought him in on loan just to terrorise Brazilian fury and nothing else.
And for further background on this, notice the team that he's from originally, Galatasaray, which, Turkish team, very famous. But let me just point out why this is bullshit, by the way. Let's just let the people know over here, like plain and simple, like just the amount of nonsense that this team decided to put me through for no reason whatsoever, I might add. This is season 8, the season in which we won the UEFA Europa Conference League. Now you will notice that in the semifinals of that competition, we beat Galatasaray. They did this on purpose. There is no other way that I can possibly explain this. And I hate it so much. If I run into these guys again in continental competitions, I will make sure that they pay the price for this offense. Oh man. Just it's a full revenge ball. It's a conspiracy. That's the best way that I can put it. Just C-O-N spiracy. All right, so we'll go one more day here, and then we'll go back to the search. So
if they loan more players out next season, you know you're onto something.
Yeah, 100%. So in the meantime here, scout priorities. So Ricardo Bravo was the first one. We're still waiting to get full knowledge on him, but he looked like one of the potential choices that we could bring in as this inverted left fielder. But he is a little bit on the pricey side. I do want to wait until we get full knowledge of him again, just to update everything, since our report on him was outdated initially before making an offer. And then the other guy was Emir Garcia. They're doing the report on him. And then Vali Toder was the other one, who is currently on hold from the looks of it here. I am going to move him up a little bit further since that is a little bit more priority taken. So, and we'll put Kanate down here for the time being. Yeah, I'm just waiting at any point during this month for them to be like, oh, Inter's making an offer for Board of Pro. Oh, here's an offer for Chosanyo, for like 3 of those to hit me all at once rather than coming in periods to where I'm suddenly just like scrambling like a chicken with my head scratched off. Cut off in this case, rather. It's one of those. So, let's see. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. Let's look, just do this scouting search again for that inside winger. Sorry, for the inverted winger position one more time. We'll raise the salary value a little bit more just to get that minimum out of the way, and then I just kind of want to see if we get more options to populate, including some that might be more averse to possibly, you know, want to go on loan that fit our parameters rather than just like, oh, here's a suggestion for an inverted winger. He does nothing of what you're looking for, but here he is, kind of thing. Which, hold on. Let's go here. Perfect. All right, so for... And we did do dribbles made per 90 for Matos as well, right? Or was it just dribbles per 90 instead on his side? Off the top of your head there. Let's see. Expected per 90. Right. Yeah, let me... This is just to increase the parameters for now. Okay, nothing on the list really changes per se with these guys. So... And even if we change it to just being competent at that, that doesn't really even add all that much to it. Just as a temporary thing, I'm going to remove the salary condition just to see. Oh wow, it's only 19 players on that perspective. Matos is kind of a rare breed in that situation. Then my goodness, more so than even I was expecting.
Matos is good. Matos is yeah. You've got a good player there. You're gonna let him walk out the door.
Let's see if we can try to maybe get him re-signed. Maybe. Okay, so we can try to renegotiate with him again. Okay. Look, man. You know what? That's fine enough. It's a season. It's a season. So lower this down to 3K. I am fine getting your agent paid, and even you, because you've been here a while, a loyalty bonus for you of this nature is fine by me. Perfect. Okay, so we at least know he's most likely to re-sign with us and stay long term in case we can't find a replacement for him. At the very least, he will be there to provide that value ideally for this next upcoming season. So
yeah, you definitely need like depth there. So it's just about having that fifth attacking midfield. If we get Ponce as well, I mean, he adds depth at attacking midfield, so that kind of does relieve some of the pressure there.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Have you had any interest come in for Soon Bell, Semolines.
No, nothing yet. I'm gonna check on them real quick just to see if anything's been updated with them. For those two, I'm not above using intermediaries either, even if they have to take a percentage of that. So long as we're getting something back, I'm like golden with it at this juncture. Because again, they weren't freeze. Oh, here he is, Christian Ponce. 5.5 million, so that's most of our transfer budget, but he is willing to come in. We got him. We have got him. So basically our striker of the future to an extent.
Possibly depending on what happens with Cho as well. Your striker now.
Could be, yeah. Pretty much. And again, just having depth as a whole is ideal, especially as we're eventually going to have to rotate between the Europa Conference League qualifiers and the Allianz Cup games and, League as well as Cup games too. So, but yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we did in fact get him. So, in general, come on now, Discord, please just stop doing this to me. I just want our pretty faces to be here for everybody to see. Why are you denying the people out of that? But yeah, all things considered, 2 solid signings after a good amount of time of research, and more research as a whole. And we'll check on those other 2 players here as we take a look at what we can do to recover some money. Hold on here. Big stare. Big staring contest things happening there, to say the least.
If you need our pretty faces on stream, I'm going to put it as close to the camera as you need.
Just be like, yeah, it's like that. Perfect. 10 out of 10, no notes. But speaking of notes, not him. There we go. You're listed and you are wanted apparently. Ooh, who is in for you, buddy?
Everyone wants him on loan,
loan offers, but no actual. Shaking my fucking head. I mean, if it's a loan for like a permanent deal afterwards, sure, why not? But besides that, I am not hearing it. So, we'll go into the transfer room. Oh, we can't add these? What the hell? No loan clauses?
Maybe you can't do that on an offer out thing.
Oh yeah, because I guess we haven't placed them on the loan list yet. So sure, just to see what teams come back with, we'll place them on the loan list. We'll leave everything unspecified for the time being and see what teams come back with. If it is an intermediary, yeah, for 10%, I mean, they'll take a chunk of it, but at least we'll get like $1 million back at minimum, which, again, for a fella that we signed on a free, we're still making money off of him, so that's the important part. Your old ears are knackered. It's funny because I do have the volume raised on OBS, but it could be that just my gain is not high enough for it, or me putting it closer. So that possibly plays a part into it there. I just don't want to blow somebody's ears up as well by just screaming very, very loudly type of thing. So yeah, in the meantime, for some Molinos, we'll do that for him. I want to see if Simsapel has been getting something similar as well. Okay, he is getting interest, but is it, yeah, loan interest on his side. Just to see what they say. And then intermediary-wise, nothing on him, but deadline of 30 days. Sure, why not? Let's keep it moving. Yeah, I just want to see over the next, like, 2 or 3 days if we get offers for these guys, and then we can probably call it an afternoon at this point too, Musterman, just because I know we've been here a while between both the initial stream that crashed due to my internet and then this second one as well. So
the crash never happened. It never happened.
Yeah.
Are you Joe?
The timing is actually perfect because we can see the. Oh yeah,
Did you transfer this?
Let me double check to see if I did list them. If not, I will double check. If that hasn't happened, I can do so here immediately after and see.
I mean, it's your squad. You can keep hold of him as well. But I think he's got decent value.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see where he was at here. Where are you, buddy? Oh, there you are. Yeah, I guess we did list him as well. Some rumored clubs for transfers, but they haven't made offers yet. Some that are saying loans, but we're gonna make those very unspecified for the time being. Just to gauge, we have him transfer listed. The intermediaries, oh wow. You were not kidding in terms of the value here. Yeah, let's see what this regional agent comes back with. Between 8.5 to 10. I think so too. I'm going to gauge this accordingly, but in the meantime, 12.5. He would not be happy with the asking price. Not by much. 10.5. Yep, we'll set it as this and then just see where it all goes from here. It's also perfect because we're going to be getting our qualifying draws as well for the Europa Conference League here in a moment. So I will get to see who we end up, who are we going to have to run the gauntlet against to get into the competition to begin with, which is unfortunate. So Somalinos. So show with a loan offer.
What?
Wait, what? What? I didn't reject anything. What the hell is going on here? Let me go back to his real quick here and see what I have set for instructions. No.
Oh, that's
annoying. What did I scroll through to make that happen here? What the hell? That is super annoying. No worries. We can try it again. Yeah, no mandatory future fees. We're going to go ahead and decline that. Like, we want to transfer him ideally.
Maybe that's why you couldn't add mandatory future fees in the past, because you had...
oh, yeah, the demand things or whatnot. Yeah, that could have played a hand into it. That makes more sense now. That's it about him. I'm also gonna ask do the other thing that they let you do for these guys, where you're like, no, not the agent. I'm actually gonna try something with this guy since he hasn't really. We didn't talk about him much, but I did mention that I wanted to move away from him when we were talking about it super early, like yesterday, about this guy. So.
100%. He's shit in his contract.
Plus, he's expiring at the end of the month. Yeah. So I don't even have to worry about him. Even better. All right. So, who else do we have?
You've got
Yeah,
offers for Somerlin or something. It hasn't auto rejected it from
yeah,
the
we'll
looks of
see
things.
those in a moment. No, it has not, which
It'll be
is a
for
good
like
thing.
£5
But
now.
yeah, Kvaratskhelia, yeah, getting officially there. So we have offers made. 2.2 million between Slovako and Qatar SC. Metz wants to do a loan, which no, thank you. We'll see which one of
Can you
these
get
two he
away
decides
with?
to go to.
Can you do the whole boosting the offers? So accept from Cardiff, reject, offer out for 10 million. If you get a bid from Watford, accept the one from Watford, reject the one from Cardiff, offer out at 10.5 million, and so on.
Interesting. We could try it, I guess. So let's try
It's
accepting
very
the one from
tedious,
Cardiff and
but
then see if we can do. Yeah, worth a shot, right? So
yes, the process you do it as is you accept one. Don't negotiate in this screen. So accept the one from Cardiff, reject the one from Watford.
Yep.
Then go into offer to clubs. So right click his name.
Oh, yeah, right. And then just do the whole shebang here. We're going kind of the long route on this one, but then if we go into transfer room,
offer him. No, you don't
targets.
even need to do that. Just go to details. And just
Okay.
offer him for 500,000 more. So what was the bid? The bid was 9.5 or
It was
8.5.
9.5.
9.5. So offer for 10 million.
8.5. Oh, okay.
Yeah, just 500,000 increments each time. Offer him out.
Oh, I see what you mean now. Yeah, yeah.
If Watford bid, then
Comes
you
back.
reject the Cardiff one, and then you increase it. It's really tedious, but you can like double the amount that comes in.
Yeah, basically gaming the system accordingly to get the best deal possible, which checks out.
You're just inviting a bidding war.
Yeah, we're just doing business. Just a little bit of business here. Come on now, trying to make some money. Trying to recuperate these transfer funds from a couple players we just got. Joyous.
But we got an offer for
Good
Jojic.
Lord.
It's all good.
Yeah. It's like, what do you mean there's no teams offering him? Like, we just literally saw offers fly across the screen here. What the hell? We're like a day late to the party. Okay. Offer for Kiwa. 1.8 million, 575. Not bad. All right, take him. For 2.4 million overall, I'm good with that. Go ahead. So we moved up 33 places to 32nd position in the new European club rankings for next season. France and Italy clinch highest coefficient spots for UCL, which checks out. Nation club coefficients, I think everything got reset at this point, so we're pretty much effed.
That
Again,
table's
half the battle
been
has
broken
been
in
like,
FM for like 3 years.
yeah, eons. It's crazy. But we're getting Newtown Association from Wales. So we basically get to beat up on a Welsh team and do them the charity of getting a pretty big ticket gate in the first leg of their matchup here in 22 days. I'm good with that. I personally am willing to accept that as a whole. So this is just more so I don't forget about it by the time that we do get to these. And then remind me again, because I know on your side of the spectrum, when you do set up these matchups, usually when you have the option of doing the 2 blocks a day before a matchup, you usually do match tactics and then match it up to whatever, whether it's a home or away, on attacking or defensive shadow play, from what I remember. Is that correct? Or do I have that like
Oh,
entirely wrong here?
I don't do match tactics at all. So it will be just either defensive shadow play or attacking shadow play, depending on whether it's a home or away game.
Gotcha.
I don't think I
Gotcha. And
do I use match tactics at all?
Mhm.
I don't think so. Sorry, I'm thinking out loud. Carry on.
No worries. Yeah, I usually tend to do both just because from like it's just something that I'm used to on that end of the spectrum. But usually you will run the attacking or defensive shadow plays on your side more so to for like a tactical perspective the night before the game type of situation. Is that why you choose to do it that route, or do you have a particular reasoning when going into it that way?
So I always do it, yeah, the day before the game, because it's a slot that's guaranteed. Like, so if I like to make sure that my players have those tactical sessions during the course of the week. If I create a schedule that I then am going to use, and I put it in one of the midweek slots, it then gets all funky when it comes to games being on a different day, and like, yeah, it just
Yeah,
annoys me. So that's like a guaranteed slot, and it's a lightweight session the day before a game. So the tactical periodization approach of having the more intense stuff at the beginning of the week and then reducing the intensity during the course of the week, whilst also going from reactive to previous week to preparing for this week's game, just kind of it flows nicely as well.
makes sense. Yeah, because I've usually on my side what I've done is that whenever I have those two blocks before a game, that's where I usually put the match tactics on one of the blocks and then do either attacking or defensive shadow play on the other block if it permits me to do so, just given the circumstances. So it tends to often be like match tactics and attacking shadow play for the home games, and then the defensive stuff for away ones. So, Arsenal. My client is incredibly interested to speaking to Arsenal, but would need a lot of convincing to remain a club. You have a release clause of 50 million. I am not letting you go for 31 and a half, and I'm going to tell you as much. The reasonable fee here is 50. Your release clause. Otherwise, anyone else bidding underneath that, fuck right on off. Quite literally, fuck right on off. That includes you, Arsenal, at this particular moment. I knew this shit would happen, though. Sooner or later, I knew. I'm just waiting to see if we get the news that Somolinos has been sold before we go. Yeah.
We've got his replacement. It's all good.
Assistant picking those. Okay, so Sunsapel. He is interested in going to Aberdeen. They're willing to give us a decent amount of money for him. The optional fee is... I'd like to make it mandatory personally, but...
I haven't seen an AI club activate an optional future fee.
Yeah, exactly. So for me in specific, like, I want this to be mandatory. I'm like, you can have him after this is all done. No problem. What do we have his fee set at? 11 and a half, which what would you be happy with? 10 and a half. Okay. Yeah. So Aberdeen, I'll do you a solid. I will cut you in at 9.5 if you decide to take him on loan.
There's installments there.
After. Wait, hold on.
You've got installments there, so that you're offering him at 16 million.
Oh, I see it now. Yep. So let's see here. So let's do 10.
Hollyfab has had an optional fee activated once only once, but still, that's pretty astounding.
Just once. Yeah, for sure. Because normally, that's not the kind of thing that happens. So let's go back to them. 6.5 with the installments, 2.5 with the mandatory. There we go. Osivu, Kiwa. Right, this is the news article for Sangyun. Club America signed Lazio's Pellegrini. Well, that's crazy, but then again, we are in 2032, so he is probably a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say, how old is Pellegrini right now?
Go to Mexico and hang out. Yeah, exactly. I was kind of thought about it. I'm like, 2032. Yeah, that would be the kind of signing for a Mexican club at that point that they would undertake. So for one of our academy goalies, that's fine. Okay. They just reduced the playing fees, but they are willing to do mandatory. So, good enough. Fine with that.
Yeah, you're making solid money across the board.
Grab one of our scouts. Exactly. Yeah, that's the idea. So. Nacional's Lingyan, Gungump, talking to them, yep. Ruiz, doing great work training. Somolinos, your shit, going to the sea already. Come on. Get in there, buddy. Swim into those waters. I believe in you. You can do it.
You don't need to swim. Yeah. That's awfully dark. I do apologize.
I don't think it's a situation too. Like he'd just be going from, in this case, well, Portugal over to either Qatar or to Eastern Europe. So it wouldn't even really be a swim. You just have to get on a bike and just ride his way all the way there. He's on land. We do not have to toss him into the sea for once. I believe it is actually holy. Let me triple check for you here, but I think I brought him in like a season or two ago off the top of my head. I will double check that for you though. Let's see.
It is indeed.
I
can answer that, yes. because when I was going through your save file, first thing I did was check whether it was that Barot Valleron.
Yep, we signed him last season as a scout from Girona. So, in fact, I like you as a scout. Here's extra money. Don't go anywhere. It's like, here's money. Go. Yeah, we have expanded enough as an operation to where we do have like a robust scouting network, which is wonderful, to be honest. It just makes life easier in terms of trying to find players at the very least, compared to during the start of this save, where it was very much like, well, we got to get 20 guys on free trials and hopefully one of them will make the difference. So yeah, Livingston, you are now we're waiting for like permanent deals on him, so no thanks on the loan. No thanks. Ooh, they feel the player is ready for more first team soccer. Very interesting for Pt.2.
Like, genuinely, if you get a bid for Bro, you've got your starting left back at the squad already.
Yeah.
Probably just a case of getting backups in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. The money for Bro would probably be used to find like a decent backup option, more so than anything at that point. And then Kevin Dos Santos, who played last season for us and did well, but he fell off considerably during last offseason, so I just sent him out on loan. He might make us 180K just from a tiny little release clause on the free. So I am good with that as well. So tiny little gains there, but we're gaining. FC Portuguese CSR, 63 million offer from Arsenal. Let's go. Get that terror out of my fucking league. Come on. Please. Dear God. This man has haunted me for 3 seasons straight. Enough is enough. And it's time for a change.
It looks like it's been accepted.
Yep, he is in talks with Arsenal, so come on.
Which also means that Arsenal aren't bid on show again.
Yeah, could be. Which, so, let's see what they're saying here. Oh man, it's a bidding war between Arsenal and Real Madrid. Very, very interesting. Expected to make his final contract decision for a while yet. So he is leaving. It's just a matter of when he's leaving now. How fun. But then again, if they're giving Porto 15 million, they're going to use it to like fuck on somebody and probably grab a replacement that's just as good.
They'll sign Canate on a permanent.
Oh God, yeah, I was about to say, I'm like, oh God, they're signing Canate permanently. Oh no. From one nightmare to the next. Then again, I don't think we've shown them this Porto team since we got a little bit of time here before things break down. We might as well just show how much of an absolute fucking nightmare this roster has been to me as a whole. Like, let's take a look at these guys. So their key player has been Jonah Kusiasari. They've had a longtime vet in David Carmo as their captain. Once Sforza's been there, but Diogo Costa has stuck with them through thick and thin. At 32, he's still manning the net for them. They have Ansu Fati on their team, who has been just an absolute nightmare of a human being to deal with here. 40 goal contributions last season. No big deal, right? Just, yeah. You deal with that, but then, as if that wasn't bad enough, they had Stefan Dornier deciding to get 24 goals as well off of 48 appearances. A Portuguese regen who was amazing in Angelo Lopez, almost with 40 goal contributions of his own throughout all of last year. So, absolutely mental. And who was the other guy that you had highlighted when we were talking about him yesterday, Musterman? It wasn't Cresta, it was somebody else. Tyrick Mitchell? Wait.
No. It was. I can't remember. That was a conversation like at least 5 minutes ago. I can't remember anything. So I obviously El Canoes. They've got El Canoes. Has El Canoes been sold? No, he's still there.
Nope, he is still there. And again, a nightmare of a human being. Their offensive side is loaded. Again, I'm just very surprised they have not won any sort of European silverware with this team. They've kind of just choked on that front. But they have dominated domestically for reasons. He is wanted though. So who? Barcelona wants him. Hilarious. But he is a good amount of money there. So things for them to consider. Let me just advance here a couple more days. Real Madrid's made an offer for Kusiasare. This was somebody else that I put a scouting report on earlier. That is not good. So, excuse me. Whew. Did not expect that one to suddenly pop up. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. So let's we have loanee players coming back, some that are ending their contracts too. So let me just advance like 3 days really quick here. I just want to like not hold.
At which point you'll come back to find that all your players have been bid on.
Son of a bitch! Every time! I would not be surprised, to be completely honest with you. We'll get the news probably if we do popping up across here, if we do get those bids coming across. So Brentford for Bournemouth's guy. Aston Villa's Nuama in talks with PSV Eindhoven. 121 million? What the what? Where did PSV
bid, right?
Got this much money from? Yeah, that's a PSV vid. That is a PSV vid.
Lots of money in selling light bulbs.
Like, it has to be that they had this money in the coffers for a while. Like, they're making a 9-figure bid for a Premier League player. That's crazy. Okay, and then we have somebody of ours that got completed. So Somolinos did get sold officially, and Kiwa has been sold officially as well. So yeah, that's perfectly acceptable. It's a bit of money coming into the coffers now. So you're still waiting on Jojic and 3.68 million. Yes, from the looks of it, those are the ones we are waiting on now. So waiting on the work permit now for Jojic with Cardiff, and then on Sunsapel's acceptance situation there from the looks of it. But let me look at Aston Villa one more time here real quick. We might as well check on your team while we're here and see what's been going on with them. So, still at Villa Park, still the 1 Champions League, still the 7 Prems from eons past. They did win an FA Cup in 2027, so good for them on that. And they have the 2024 Europa Conference League. And then a Carabao Cup last year. So, hey, they have been winning trophies fairly recently at the very least. It could be worse. It could be better, but it also could be worse. So, which guy still is there? That one here?
Jacob Ramsey's still there. Musa Diaby's still there.
They got... Kungan Lee, they brought him in. Interesting. Diaby. Jared Brush. So let's look at PSV Eindhoven. Because maybe we read it wrong and it's the other way around.
That was indeed
which would make more sense,
Robbie Fowler as manager of the Saudis.
Yep. Indeed. So the new what was the name of the player in question here?
Sorry, headphone one just died.
Way of checking into this here. Oh, all good. Hit those. That happens. Because he's sorry off.
Now to the people that normally are in my streams. Look, I am a professional. I have backup headphones literally within arm's reach. Yeah.
Okay, so it in this case it is Aston Villa making a bid for this guy. We just read it the wrong way around, but
right.
Damn, 121 million as a bid. That is nutty. I mean,
that is obscene. No, it is PSV bidding for Nuama.
It is PSV making the bid instead. Okay. He's on loan. Oh, okay. Cool. We did, but then again, his record. Also, okay, so he came out of RTD Academy in Ghana. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, yeah. Holifab also pointed out that it looks like Robbie Fowler is manager of Saudi Arabia. Came up as a news article.
Let's take a look. Robbie Fowler.
Oh, he was. No, he is.
Yeah, seems like he just... Yes. Career milestones. Yep, he just got hired from the looks of it here. He took over... He resigned at Al Qadisiyah to take the Saudi Arabia job from the looks of it. So, yeah, since we are we might as well check into this here in the Good Old Prem. So, Liverpool won a title. How boring and original. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so the history of the Prem. Past winners. Okay, this is already unrealistic. Arsenal having 3 trophies is completely just not something that would happen in real life at any stretch of the imagination. So, fictional world, fake news, etc., etc. Brighton ending up as runners-up in 2030-31 is interesting, though. I will say that much. And then managers for these teams. Eddie Howe is a Liverpool now.
Eddie Howe's Newcastle.
Liverpool even. Yeah. Jurgen Klopp, Arne Slot, Rian Ide, who's an interim. Luis Enrique coming through for 2 years before leaving. And then Eddie Howe for the past year wins them the trophy. That's crazy. Who's at Man City now? Nobody's at Man City currently. Who was their previous guy? Thomas Tuchel got fired. Not that much of a surprise, actually. Roberto De Zerbi had a 4-year stint. And then before him, Unai Emery? Really? Okay, and then
Man City recognise Will.
He got fired in June. He got fired in June 2024. So Unai Emery, that's interesting because I know obviously him being at Villa right now. What has he been doing in this particular save? All right. He left Villa to go to City after Pep got fired. He got fired at City, went to Getafe, and he's now at Slovakia as their head coach. How very interesting. Let's see. Sure, we'll check on West Ham. I do not recognize their current manager, but what was their scene like here throughout the years?
How do we pronounce that name?
David Moyes.
Actually, let's not even attempt because that might come out as a blur.
Yeah. Eduardo Cudet, Vincenzo Italiano, Sean Maloney. Yeah, Andoni Iraola is the only one that I recognize. If it was only there for like almost 3 years before getting fired. So West Ham, not too eventful on their side of the spectrum. Manchester United. Thiago Motta is there at this particular moment. Ten Hag lasted longer than any of us expected in the save. And Thiago Motta has been like the rock of this team. He hasn't won them shit, but he has been the rock of that particular team there. Oh yeah, we did beat his team for the UEFA Europa Conference League. It should be reminded. We did rob him of a continental trophy due to that. So, we'll take our thank yous in the mail. Arsenal. Enzo Maresca as their current manager. Wow, they took that long to fire Mikel Arteta. But then again, this is a save that says Arteta won multiple trophies, and we know that is clearly impossible in real life at this juncture. So we're just going to move on. And let's check and see who is Brighton's manager currently. Philippe Clement, and what was their history like here? De Zerbi got fired, and then, wow, Philippe Clement basically took that over and has stayed there pretty much since. Going from Rangers over to Brighton. So, very interesting. And then Newcastle was the other one I wanted to check. Jurgen Klopp as at Newcastle? What the? Wow. Okay. Anyhow, Pep Guardiola, who gets fired within a year. Jurgen Klopp.
It doesn't look like Guardiola
that
got
Saudi
fired.
Arabian money must be crazy. Oh, no, he left. You're right. He did leave. Where did he go to? Of course, he's at Paris Saint-Germain. Of course. I shouldn't be surprised, and yet. So wait, he got fired from Man City, went to Chelsea, won them in the Europa Conference League, left Chelsea at the end of his contract, went to Newcastle, went to PSG, and he's just been at PSG pretty much since. Has not won them a Champions League, which is kind of on brand for Pep Guardiola, to be completely honest with you. So,
And for PSG.
the things you will see in a save after like a decade long of like playing it is just astronomical stuff. But with that said, we have been going on at this for really like 5 hours at this point. So I'm going to save you here. I am going to call it, as we're only about 2 weeks away from our first few games of the season, but we moneyballed accordingly. We saw a bunch of stats for the lineup that we did have. We made some signings. We sold some players. We're probably selling a couple more before this is all over with. And again, Musterman, thank you so much for taking some time out of your afternoon/evening with time zone and whatnot to come here, hang out with me, and just take a look at this sort of crazy universe I've been running for the better part of a year on the FM creative sphere. It's really appreciated.
No worries at all. Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure. And I hope that people have enjoyed this today. It's something a little bit different. Well, some people have seen this on my streams where we take probably about the same length of time, but we don't even press continue. So that anyone who's come along has been in for a treat tonight. They've seen progress.
Yeah. They've actually seen like many kind of arc happen as a whole on that portion. So it's been perfect. Sincerely appreciate it. Again, and because my notifications on OBS haven't been working, unfortunately, and apologies on that, Armani GS, thank you for the follow over on Twitchland. Much appreciated. Glad that this was insightful for some folks. It definitely was insightful for me in particular because it's not a style that I'm too used to playing. I just like the Musterman skin because the colors and the aesthetics fit the kind of stuff that I like to do from time to time when creating these videos as well. So it is sincerely appreciated. Now, our good friend Deal40K is streaming at the moment, so we are actually going to go over and raid him and say hello, just kind of pay it forward from the raids that we did have from Mad Scientist FM, from Straight Cracked, and then earlier as well with H-Tank with the resubscription, the follows from everybody all across the border. It's been an incredible stream. Thank you all so much for everything on that, and we're going to go ahead and call it good on the YouTube side of the stream here. So for those over on YouTube, thanks so much for attending, coming through. We'll